Before the train, before the castle, before the boy who lived, there was magic. It has existed longer than any Muggle history book could ever record. It was there in the ancient tribes, in the druids, in the legends kings told at bedtime and peasants whispered in fear. And among all the wizards who ever lived, one name echoed through the centuries like no other: Merlin, the Prince of Enchanters. Advisor to King Arthur, master of magic in an era when wizards still walked tall in the world. Tradition says he himself founded the Order of Merlin, an honor created to champion an idea as simple as it was dangerous for its time: that wizards and muggles could live together, that magic didn't have to be a weapon, that true power was knowing when not to use it. But Merlin was the exception. The world would soon prove otherwise.
No, because I'm banned from international travel, Dumbledore. If I leave the country, they will put me in Azkaban and they will throw away the key.
Do you know why I admire you, Newt?
New York, 1926. A ship docks at the harbor and off steps a fellow in a blue overcoat with the slightly lost look of someone who doesn't know a soul in the city, carrying a battered leather suitcase in his hand. This is Newt Scamander, a British magizoologist who carries inside that case a lot more than any customs inspector could ever imagine. On the streets of Manhattan, Newt crosses paths with a woman named Mary Lou Barebone, who is in the middle of a fiery speech to a small crowd. She preaches about the existence of witches living among ordinary people, urging everyone to open their eyes to this supposed threat. Newt stops to watch, half curious, half suspicious, when he notices something moving inside his case. Before he can react, a cute, furry little creature escapes through the latch and scampers down the sidewalk. It's a niffler, a little beast with an absurd fixation on absolutely anything shiny: gold, silver, jewels, coins. If it glitters, it wants it. The niffler breaks into none other than a bank. Newt goes after it, trying to be discreet, but discretion isn't exactly the strong suit of someone chasing a magical creature through a financial institution. Amidst the chaos, he ends up dragging along a guy named Jacob Kowalski, a World War I veteran working in a cannery who was there trying to get a loan to open a bakery. The man's dream was flour and yeast, and he ended up in the middle of magic and mayhem. Newt manages to recover the niffler inside the bank vault and pulls Jacob outside. The plan was simple: wipe the guy's memory and move on. But Jacob doesn't cooperate. He hits Newt with his own suitcase and makes a run for it. And that's when things really start to go off the rails. Because in the middle of all that mess, their suitcases were swapped. Showing up to complicate the situation is Tina Goldstein, a demoted Auror who saw what happened and decides to arrest Newt.
Sorry, we call them muggles.
You wiped his memory, right? The no match with the case?
I'm taking you in.
She takes him to the president of MACUSA, Magical Congress of the United States of America, Pickery. Pickery looks at the situation, looks at Tina, and basically tells them both to get out. She has no patience for it, but an Auror named Percival Graves takes an interest in the case. He goes to Tina's office and demands to see what's inside Newt's suitcase. When they open it, they find pastries, cakes, bread, baked goods. Newt freezes. That's not his case, it's Jacob's. And if that suitcase is there, it means the case full of magical creatures is sitting in the apartment of a guy who has absolutely no idea what's inside it. And that is exactly what happens. Back home, Jacob opens the case out of curiosity and unleashes several magical creatures upon New York City. Half of the man's apartment gets destroyed, literally. Meanwhile, we learn more about Mary Lou. She runs a sort of orphanage where she indoctrinates the children with stories about evil witches and uses them to hand out anti-magic pamphlets across the city. Her youngest daughter, Modesty, cheerfully sings songs about dead witches. Her eldest son, Credence, however, is a completely different story. Isolated, quiet, and visibly uncomfortable with it all. There's something wrong with this boy, and it's not just the oppressive upbringing. What Mary Lou doesn't know is that Credence is being sought out by Graves. The Auror approaches him in secret multiple times and gives him a mission to find a child possessed by an Obscurus, a destructive magical force that Graves believes is behind a series of violent and inexplicable incidents in New York. In exchange, Graves promises to take Credence away from that miserable life and teach him magic, a promise that carries a massive amount of weight for someone who has only ever known abuse and rejection. Newt and Tina arrive at Jacob's apartment to find half the place destroyed. Jacob is looking rather sick from the bite of a murtlap, one of the escaped creatures. Newt fixes the apartment with magic, and Tina takes them both to her place, where she lives with her younger sister, Queenie. And Queenie is quite the character, blonde, friendly, and with a natural talent for legilimency. In other words, she reads minds. Before you even finish a thought, she already knows what you are going to say. The two men are invited to spend the night, and it's at this moment that Newt does something extraordinary. He pulls Jacob down into his suitcase, not into a false bottom or a hidden compartment, but into an entire world. Newt's case is like a private zoo in another dimension, complete with biomes, habitats, and dozens of magical creatures living inside. Jacob is completely fascinated. A guy who spent his whole life in a cannery is now face to face with beings he couldn't have conjured up in his wildest dreams. During the tour, Jacob comes across a dark, pulsating entity. Newt explains that it's an Obscurus and tells him not to touch it. The thing is highly dangerous, but Newt keeps it there, isolated, for a reason that will become clear later. After doing a head count of the missing creatures, Newt and Jacob step out of the suitcase to begin their search. Their first mission is to recapture an Erumpent, a sort of magical rhinoceros with explosive tendencies. But before that, Newt realizes the Niffler has escaped again, because of course it did. They find it in a jewelry store, practically swimming in gold, and after a brief struggle, they manage to recapture it.
One down.
Next, they find several animals loose around the city, including a lion and an ostrich, and follow the trail to the Central Park Zoo. Tina and Queenie, who had stayed behind, realize the men are missing, and Tina goes after them. She arrives just in time to see Newt and Jacob capture the Erumpent and climb back inside the suitcase. And that's when Tina makes a decision. She locks the case with both of them inside and takes the whole thing straight to Makusa headquarters. She wants to prove she was right about Newt all along. Her timing couldn't have been worse. When Tina arrives, the Makusa leadership is gathered to discuss the mysterious force that has been terrorizing New York. The thing has already killed a U.S. senator. Tina presents Newt and his creatures to Pickery, Graves, and a room full of high-ranking wizards. The reaction is far from grateful. Pickery and Graves order the immediate arrest of Newt, Tina, and Jacob, and confiscate the suitcase. Graves interrogates Newt about the Obscurus he is carrying in his case. Newt explains, an Obscurus is a dark magical force that manifests when young children suppress their magic, usually out of fear of persecution. This destructive energy consumes the child from the inside out, almost always killing them before their 10th birthday. Newt had extracted that specific Obscurus in Sudan, after it had already killed its host, a young girl. But what Graves wants isn't that Obscurus. He's after a different one, belonging to a child who is still alive and wreaking havoc in New York, the very same child who killed Senator Henry Shaw Jr. at a banquet. Graves sentences Newt and Tina to death, just like that, with no trial and no appeal. Queenie, using her legilimency, picks up on Tina's thoughts and discovers the sentencing. Newt, however, doesn't go down easy. He uses one of his recently captured creatures, the Swooping Evil, to break free from the Aurors. With Queenie's help, they rescue Jacob and escape from Makusa headquarters. As our group makes their getaway, Credence's story reaches its breaking point. Back at the house, the boy finds a wand under Modesty's bed. Mary Lou sees it and assumes it belongs to him. She reaches for her belt as she always does whenever Credence supposedly disobeys. Modesty confesses that the wand is actually hers. Mary Lou turns her wrath on the little girl, ready to punish her. But this time, something different happens. The Obscurus manifests. The entire house is ripped apart. Mary Lou is seemingly killed. Everything crumbles, leaving only Credence and Modesty as survivors. Graves finds Credence in the aftermath of the destruction and insists that he help him track down Modesty. In Graves's mind, the little girl is the child from his vision, the Obscurial he has been so desperately searching for. On the other side of town, Newt and his friends visit a magical speakeasy to get information on the last missing creature, Dougal, a demiguise, with the highly inconvenient power of turning invisible. The bar's owner, a goblin named Narlac, agrees to trade information, but he actually sells the group out to Graves. Aurors raid the bar, but Newt and the others manage to escape just in time. They track down Dougal, who has been babysitting a another runaway creature, an Akami, a magical beast that can expand or shrink to fit whatever space is available. The problem is that the creature has decided to nest in the attic of Macy's and has grown to the size of a dragon. Newt, Tina, and Jacob work together to trick the Akami into shrinking down until it fits safely inside a teapot. With that, all the creatures have been recovered.
Was that everything that came out of the case?
That's everything.
The suitcase is complete once more, but the story is far from over. Graves and Credence track Modesty to the old home where she used to live with her biological family, and it's here that Graves shows his true colors. He looks at Credence with total disgust and casts him aside. He calls the boy a squib, someone born without magical powers. He tells him he never had any intention of helping him, that he was just a means to an end to get to the child who actually mattered. Credence absorbs every word, and then he reveals the truth that Graves completely failed to see. He is the Obscurial. He always was, a young man who survived with that destructive force inside him far longer than any wizard thought possible. Fueled by all his rage, all his pain, and all his humiliation, Credence unleashes the Obscurus with devastating violence. His body dissolves into a dark, furious mass that tears through the streets of New York, ripping up buildings and destroying everything in its path. Newt knows exactly how this is going to play out. The Aurors know almost nothing about Obscurials. They will treat him as a threat to be eliminated, not as a person to be saved. He chases after Credence and finds him down in a subway station. There, with quiet calm and patience, Newt manages to soothe Credence enough for him to revert to his human form. For a fleeting moment, it seems like there might be a chance. But then Graves arrives, Tina arrives, and Credence, scared and unstable, begins to violently shift back and forth between his human form and the Obscurus. When President Pickery shows up with the rest of the Aurors, their decision is immediate and cold. Credence must die in the name of the Statute of Secrecy. Newt protests, Tina protests, even Graves protests, but the Aurors unleash their spells, and Credence is blown apart. Graves explodes in a fit of rage. He confronts the entirety of Makusa, declaring that this obsession with keeping the wizarding and non-magical, no-maj worlds separate is exactly what causes tragedies like this one. That wizards are forced to live in hiding, in fear, sacrificing their own kind to protect people who don't even know they exist. Pickery orders him to hand over his wand and surrender. Graves fights off the Aurors and nearly wins, until Newt subdues him using one of his creatures. And then comes the big reveal. Newt casts the Revelio charm, and Graves' face transforms. It isn't Graves. It never was. It is Gellert Grindelwald, the most dangerous dark wizard in the world.
Will we die just a little?
All this time, he had been infiltrating Makusa, manipulating Credence, gaming the system, and hunting down the Obscurial for his own twisted ends. Grindelwald is taken into custody and hauled back to Makusa. Now one major problem remains. Half of New York just witnessed magic, destruction, and impossible creatures. Newt climbs to the roof of a building and releases his Thunderbird into the sky. The creature creates a storm, spreading an amnesiac potion through the rain that falls over the entire city, wiping the memories of all the nomads who saw what happened. Pickery orders that Jacob's memory be wiped as well, no exceptions. Newt, Tina, and Queenie are allowed to say their goodbyes, but the rule is absolute. Queenie, who has formed a genuine connection with Jacob, kisses him before he steps out into the rain. It's a quiet, heartbreaking farewell because she knows he won't remember a thing, not even her. Sometime later, Newt secretly swaps Jacob's suitcase for a brand new one, packed full of solid silver Akami eggshells. More than enough collateral for a bank loan. The bakery dream finally becomes a reality. Tina gets her job as an Auror back, and she and Newt say their goodbyes at the harbor. He promises to return in person to deliver a copy of his book once it's written. Queenie visits Jacob's bakery. The place is packed, an absolute success. And the most curious part, the breads, cookies, and pastries Jacob bakes have strange, familiar shapes. Creatures he doesn't consciously remember seeing, but which somehow left an imprint on him. When Queenie walks in, Jacob looks up at her. He doesn't know who she is, but for a split second, a spark lights up his eyes. A faint, almost imperceptible glimmer of recognition, as if his heart remembered what his mind was forced to forget. Remember Grindelwald, that dark wizard who was unmasked at the end of the last adventure? Well, he didn't stay locked up for long. Makusa, MACUSA, the Magical Congress of the United States of America, decides to transfer the guy to Europe to stand trial. A flying carriage, heavy security, everything by the book. But Grindelwald isn't the type of villain to just sit quietly in the back seat. During the transport, chaos ensues. A MACUSA employee, a guy named Abernathy, double-crosses everyone and helps Grindelwald escape. The carriage turns into a battlefield in the sky, and when the dust settles, the most dangerous wizard in the world is free again. And this time, he has a much grander plan in mind. 3 months pass. We reunite with Newt Scamander in London, at the British Ministry of Magic. After all that mess in New York, the guy has been slapped with an international travel ban. He's there trying to appeal the decision, and along the way, he bumps into someone from his past, Leta Lestrange, an old classmate from Hogwarts. Things get even more complicated when he finds out Leta is now engaged to his brother Theseus, who is an Auror. The Ministry makes Newt an offer. The travel ban gets lifted if he helps Theseus track down Credence Barebone in Paris. Credence, that tormented kid everyone thought had been destroyed, survived. But Newt rejects the deal when he finds out he'd have to work alongside Gunnar Grimson, a ruthless bounty hunter. Newt's gut tells him something is off, and he trusts his instincts. Shortly after, Newt meets none other than Albus Dumbledore.
Were the less conspicuous rooftops full then?
I do enjoy a view.
And here we learn something interesting. Dumbledore isn't as innocent as he seems in all of this. He was the one who indirectly sent Newt to America to release Frank the Thunderbird. That was no coincidence. Now Dumbledore has another favor to ask. He wants Newt to go to Paris, find Credence before Grindelwald and the Ministry do, and save him. The reason? Dumbledore believes Credence is actually Corvus Lestrange, Leta's long-lost half-brother. Newt barely has time to process all this when he gets an unexpected visit. Queenie Goldstein and Jacob Kowalski show up at his door. Jacob, the no-maj baker from New York, has somehow regained his wiped memories. The joy of reuniting with his friends is short-lived though. Newt realizes that Tina, Queenie's sister, isn't with them, and Queenie tells him why. Tina is seeing someone else. The reason? She read in a wizarding magazine that Newt and Leta were engaged. Newt is visibly shaken and quickly clears things up. Leta is engaged to Theseus, not him. But there's another problem. Newt, with his trained eye for behavior, notices Jacob is acting weird, a bit too spacey, agreeing to everything, and then it clicks. Queenie has bewitched Jacob to make him agree to marry her. MACUSA forbids marriages between wizards and non-magical people, and Queenie decided to fix that the wrong way. When Newt lifts the charm, Jacob snaps out of it and refuses to get married. Not because he doesn't love Queenie, but because he knows the consequences she would face. It's a heartbreaking decision, but it comes from a genuine place of protection. Queenie doesn't see it that way. Hurt and frustrated, she leaves for Paris alone to find Tina. Newt and Jacob go after her. In Paris, things get a lot heavier. Tina is hunting Credence on her own, and the trail leads her to Circus Arcanus, a dark magical circus where creatures and beings are kept in captivity. Credence is there, and he isn't alone. He forms an alliance with Nagini, a circus performer who carries a blood curse that will eventually turn her into a snake permanently. The two take advantage of a distraction and escape together. Credence's search for his own identity leads him to Irma, a half-elf who was responsible for bringing him from Europe to America as a baby. Finally, a real clue about his origins. But before he can get any meaningful answers out of her, Grimson shows up. That bounty hunter the Ministry wanted Newt to team up with? He's a follower of Grindelwald, and he kills Irma in cold blood. The only person who could tell Credence who he really is, eliminated right in front of him. Meanwhile, Tina crosses paths with Yusuf Kama, a wizard who is also after Credence, but for completely different reasons. Newt and Jacob follow Yusuf's trail to Tina, but when they find her, she's being held hostage. Yusuf disarms Newt, locks the three of them together, and starts explaining why. He made an unbreakable vow to kill his half-brother, and he believes Credence is that person, a story of family vengeance that spans generations. In the meantime, Queenie is lost in Paris, alone, unable to find Tina, and emotionally wrecked. And it's exactly in this vulnerable state that one of Grindelwald's acolytes finds her and takes her to the Dark Wizard. Grindelwald is too smart to force anything. He knows Queenie is a powerful legilimens, capable of reading minds, so he does something much more dangerous than making threats. He lets her go. But first, he plants a seed. He talks about freedom, about a world where Queenie could love whoever she wanted without absurd laws dictating her life. He weaponizes her deepest desire, and it works. Newt and Tina manage to infiltrate the French Ministry Ministry of Magic looking for documents to confirm Credence's identity, but they are discovered by Leda and Theseus. The scene between Newt and Tina finally clears up the misunderstanding. He was never engaged to Leda. The relief between the two is almost palpable, and the tension that had been there from the start shifts into something else. The investigation leads them to the Lestrange family tomb, and there, with Yusuf present, the truth begins to surface. Yusuf reveals the full story. His father, Mustafa, asked him to avenge the death of his mother, Lorena, who was kidnapped by Corvus Lestrange IV using the Imperious Curse. Lorena died giving birth to a baby girl, Leda herself. Yusuf's mission was to kill the Lestrange heir, the half-brother he never met. But then Leda speaks up, and what she says changes everything. Credence can't be Corvus, because Corvus is dead, and it's her fault. When they were babies, on a ship bound for America, Leda couldn't stand her little brother's constant crying anymore. On an impulse, she swapped him with another baby, and when the ship sank, it was Corvus who drowned. The baby who survived, who grew up without an identity, abused and lost, was Credence, but he wasn't a Lestrange. The weight of this revelation is massive. Leda has carried this guilt her entire life, and Yusuf finds out that the target of his unbreakable vow has been dead for decades. But there's no time to digest any of this, because Grindelwald is about to make his big move. He holds a rally in Paris, and that's where all the storylines converge. The whole group follows the trail to the gathering. Queenie is among the followers. Jacob is there, desperate to find her, and Grindelwald does what he does best. He doesn't threaten, he doesn't shout, he shows them. He projects images of a future global war, bombs, destruction on an unimaginable scale, and then, with the calmness of someone who has already won the argument, he questions the laws that forbid wizards from intervening. Why should they watch humanity destroy itself when they have the power to stop it? It's pure manipulation, but it's the kind that works because it mixes truth with poison. Theseus and his Aurors surround the rally. Grindelwald was expecting this. He conjures a ring of blue fire, intense and supernatural, which kills the Aurors who try to retreat, but his loyal followers, they can cross through safely. It's a test of faith in the most literal sense.
This has all been for you, Credence.
Queenie crosses through, so does Credence. And then Leda does something no one saw coming. She sacrifices herself, stepping between Grindelwald and the others to buy them time to escape. The woman who carried a lifetime of guilt finds a moment of redemption in her final act. Newt, Tina, Jacob, Yusuf, Nagini, and Theseus manage to escape. Nicholas Flamel, the immortal alchemist, shows up to help contain and extinguish the fire before Paris burns to ashes. Together, they bring the flames under control. In the calm after the storm, Newt realizes there's no going back. It's no longer just about magical creatures and traveling the world. He is in a war, and he chooses to fight. Back at Hogwarts, Newt hands Dumbledore a vial that his thieving little Niffler stole from Grindelwald during the chaos, and the contents are highly revealing. A blood pact. Grindelwald and Dumbledore made a vow in their youth that prevents them from dueling each other. That's why Dumbledore needs Newt. He literally cannot face Grindelwald himself, but Dumbledore believes the pact can be destroyed. And at Nurmengard Castle in Austria, Grindelwald prepares his final play. He turns to Credence and says something no one could have imagined, that his real name isn't Credence Barebone. It isn't Corvus Lestrange, it's Aurelius Dumbledore, Albus's long-lost brother. Grindelwald hands him a wand, and he tells him the legend. A phoenix comes to any Dumbledore in desperate need, and a phoenix came to Credence. So Grindelwald tells him that he, Aurelius, is the only person powerful enough to defeat Albus Dumbledore. Credence raises the wand, and for the first time in his life, he performs magic like a real wizard, with an identity, with a purpose. The problem is, that purpose was molded by the most dangerous man in the world. Albus Dumbledore boards a train and goes to meet none other than Gellert Grindelwald. Not on a battlefield, not in a dark fortress, but in an ordinary Muggle restaurant. The two sit face to face like two old acquaintances, because that's exactly what they are, and the conversation is charged. Dumbledore and Grindelwald discuss their shared past, how their goals were once the same, and the blood pact that still binds them. Grindelwald doesn't beat around the bush. He tells Dumbledore to stay out of his way. His plan is to burn down the Muggle world, with or without Albus's help. It's not a vague threat, it's a declaration of war. And Dumbledore, in his own way of absorbing everything with a calm that borders on disturbing, listens to every word. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, in the jungles of Quaylin, the scene is completely different. Newt Scamander is out in the middle of the night, helping a magical creature called a Qilin give birth. The Qilin is special. It can see into people's souls and even glimpse the future. It's a practically sacred beast. And Newt is right there, out in the wild, playing the role of midwife. But the peace doesn't last. Grindelwald's acolytes show up, led by Credence Barebone. They attack with everything they've got, overpower Newt, kill the mother Qilin, and kidnap the newborn calf. It's brutal, cold, calculated, exactly the kind of thing Grindelwald would order without losing a wink of sleep, except nobody knew one crucial detail. The Qilin had twins, and the second calf, the smaller one, survived in hiding. When Newt regains consciousness, he finds the little creature and manages to save it. This fragile little thing is going to become the most important piece on the board. At Nurmengard Castle, Grindelwald receives the stolen calf and does the unthinkable. He kills the Qilin, but it's not an act of gratuitous cruelty. He wants the power of precognition that the creature's blood carries, and it works. In the reflection of the spilled blood, Grindelwald has a vision. Dumbledore showing the blood pact to Newt and Theseus Scamander at the Hogshead Inn. The guy literally sees the future of his enemies in the blood of an animal he just slaughtered. That's next-level villainy. Newt and Theseus head straight to the Hogshead Inn to confront Dumbledore. They need answers. They need a plan. Dumbledore still can't fight Grindelwald directly because of the blood pact, and he knows it, but he assures them he has a plan to defeat Grindelwald and stop him from destroying the world out of sheer hatred. The catch? The Scamander brothers have to trust him, blindly, without knowing all the details, without understanding all the pieces. Dumbledore is asking for faith, and knowing who's asking, that carries massive weight. On the other side of the equation, Lally Hicks goes to recruit Jacob Kowalski, and Jacob is not doing well. Not well at all. Queenie left him, abandoning him and the Kowalski Quality Baked Goods Bakery to join Grindelwald's followers. The Great Depression is knocking at the door, and this guy, who already had his memory wiped, who was dragged into the wizarding world and spat back out, now wants nothing to do with any of it. You can't blame him, but Lally insists, and in the end, Jacob agrees to help, because deep down, no matter how broken he is, he's still the guy who can't turn his back when someone needs him. The group gathers on the Great Wizarding Express, heading to Berlin. Newt, Theseus, Bunty Broadacre, and Yusuf Kama are already there when Jacob and Lally arrive. And that's when Newt reveals the play. To counter Grindelwald's ability to see the future, they're going to split up. Everyone gets a different role, and no one fully knows what the others are doing. If no one knows the whole plan, Grindelwald can't predict the whole plan. It's as simple as it is brilliant. Newt hands out the items, Theseus gets a tie with a large gold pin, Jacob gets a wand, coreless, completely useless as a weapon, but Jacob doesn't need to know that just yet. Bunty receives instructions that will self-destruct as soon as she reads them. Each gift is a riddle, and none of them make total sense right now. Bunty sets off on her mission to duplicate Newt's suitcase into half a dozen copies. Meanwhile, the rest head to Berlin to visit the German Ministry of Magic, and here they run into politics, the wizarding version of it at least. Anton, the supreme mugwump and minister, refuses to help, not because he doesn't believe the danger is real, but because it's not politically convenient. Institutional cowardice exists in any world, magical or not. The outcome is devastating. Grindelwald is acquitted of all charges by the International Confederation of Wizards. Worse, he's now cleared to run for the position of the next Supreme Mugwump. The guy who declared open war on Muggles is now a legitimate candidate. Wizarding democracy has its questionable moments. To top off the disaster, Theseus is captured. Newt regroups with Dumbledore, who reveals where Theseus is being held and hands out new tasks. Lally and Jacob are put in charge of thwarting assassination attempts against Grindelwald's political rivals. It's a huge leap of faith to place that in the hands of a Muggle with a fake wand, but Dumbledore has his reasons. Over at Nurmengard, Grindelwald has more visions. He sees Yusuf Khan arriving at the castle. He sees Dumbledore going to Bhutan to confront him, with Vinda watching. The future unfolds before him like a movie he intends to rewrite. The next morning, Yusuf walks into Nurmengard, and Grindelwald does something unsettling. He accepts the man as a spy in his inner circle, but first, he wipes his memory of Leta Lestrange's death. Yusuf loses the only emotional anchor connecting him to the fight. Grindelwald doesn't just see the future, he manipulates the present by erasing the past. On the streets of Berlin, Dumbledore walks, knowing he's being followed. Credence is trailing him, under orders from Grindelwald to kill him. Dumbledore doesn't run, he doesn't hide, he stops, turns around and faces Credence head-on. The ensuing fight is intense. Credence is full of rage. Rage from being abandoned. Rage from a lifetime of unanswered questions. And he channels all of it into his attacks. But Dumbledore is Dumbledore. After a fierce battle, Albus comes out on top.
At least I lied to you. Kindled your
And then comes the revelation that changes everything. Credence isn't Albus's brother. He's his nephew, Aberforth Dumbledore's son. The truth they'd been searching for was exactly that. Not a lost brother, but the son of the brother who never knew how to be a father. While this bombshell drops, Berlin is boiling over with politics and conspiracy. Anton publicly backs Grindelwald's candidacy to other influential members of the Confederation. Down the street, Grindelwald is driving a car with Vinda by his side and has another vision. Jacob Kowalski, drawing that coreless wand and pointing it at him. Jacob and Lally manage to prevent the assassination of Vicencia Santos, one of the rival candidates. But Jacob, being Jacob, does something impulsive. He confronts Grindelwald face to face, and Grindelwald, master manipulator that he is, weaponizes the moment. He frames Jacob, making it look like the Muggle tried to kill him, a non-magical person attempting to assassinate a candidate for leader of the wizarding world. It's the perfect fuel to turn the wizarding community against Muggles. Grindelwald doesn't need to manufacture a crisis when Jacob hands him one on a silver platter. Jacob and Lally barely make it out. And who saves them? Queenie. From the inside of Grindelwald's ranks, she hurls a chair at Helmut and his goons to buy Jacob enough time to escape. It's a small gesture, but it speaks volumes. Underneath it all, underneath her choice to join Grindelwald, Queenie still cares. She still protects the ones she loves, even from the wrong side of the war. Meanwhile, Newt has his own mission: infiltrate the Erkstag prison and rescue Theseus. And it's no ordinary prison. It's got a manicore, it's got guards, it's got everything to go horribly wrong. But Newt, with his unique knack for understanding creatures better than people, manages to navigate the obstacles and get his brother out. The Scamanders make it out in one piece, which is a miracle in and of itself. The group regroups at Hogwarts and heads to the Hog's Head for dinner. It's a moment of pause, a chance to breathe before the final storm. But while they rest, Grindelwald turns to necromancy. He takes the Chillin he killed and brings it back, a zombified, undead version, a puppet. And in the lingering remnants of the creature's power, he gets another vision. There's a second Chillin. The rage that washes over him is palpable. Credence, who was supposed to bring back both calves, failed. Dumbledore confronts his brother Aberforth about his responsibilities as Credence's father. It's a tough conversation, filled with uncomfortable truths. Newt learns the whole story of Albus's past, and in a game-changing moment, Credence, completely disillusioned with Grindelwald, reaches out through the mirror. He wants to come home. Dumbledore puts together the final plan. With Credence's help, they have a real shot. The next day, he makes an announcement to the group. Everyone needs to go to Bhutan. The election for the next Supreme Mugwump of the International Confederation of Wizards is taking place there, and that's where Grindelwald intends to seize power. Using a port key provided by the Room of Requirement, the group travels to Bhutan, and when they arrive, it's all-out war. They clash with Grindelwald's disciples, and one by one, the acolytes fall. Yusuf Kama reveals his true allegiance in the process. He was never Grindelwald's spy. He was a mole the entire time, waiting for the right moment to turn the tables. At the ceremony, Grindelwald presents the zombified Chillin, and the creature, controlled by necromancy, bows before him. It's enough for him to be announced as the new Supreme Mugwump. And his first act, declaring open war on Muggles. He publicly tortures Jacob as an example, punishing him for the alleged assassination attempt in Berlin. But then the pieces Dumbledore handed out on the train start falling into place. Credence, Queenie, and Newt work together to expose the fraud. They reveal that the Chillin is an animated corpse, an abomination, and Bunty, the same Bunty who got the self-destructing instructions, emerges with the real Chillin. The twin calf Newt saved that night in the jungle, that fragile little creature that almost died before taking its first breath, is now living proof that everything Grindelwald built is a lie. The true Chillin walks among the crowd, looking into everyone's souls. It approaches Dumbledore, but he turns down the position, so the creature chooses Vicencia Santos, the rightful leader. Grindelwald, with his entire plan crumbling around him, loses control. In a fit of sheer rage, he tries to kill Credence, but Albus and Aberforth intervene together, the two Dumbledore brothers, protecting the son of one of them. And it's this very act, protecting Credence instead of attacking Grindelwald, that finally breaks the blood pact. The magic that prevented Dumbledore from fighting Grindelwald simply shatters, because the pact forbade confrontation, not protection. Free for the first time, Dumbledore goes after Grindelwald. The battle is intense, violent, two of the most powerful wizards in the world clashing with everything they have. Ultimately, they reach a stalemate, wands at each other's heads, hands over their opponent's heart. Neither can strike the final blow. Grindelwald, realizing he's lost the political war even if he hasn't lost the duel, backs away and disappears. Credence is dying. The Obscurus has consumed too much of his body, and the fights have taken their toll. Aberforth, the father he never knew, carries him away in his arms. A phoenix follows them, singing a lament that echoes through the mountains. Dumbledore watches his brother carry his nephew and makes a promise to Theseus. He is going to find Grindelwald, and he will stop him. In the aftermath of it all, life moves on, and it brings a moment no one saw coming. Jacob and Queenie get married. After everything, the separation, being on the wrong side of the war, the pain, the two find their way back to each other. The ceremony is simple and beautiful. Almost the entire group is there. Tina Goldstein finally makes an appearance. Even Albert, the new employee at Jacob's Bakery, shows up. And Dumbledore? He thanks Newt for everything he's done. Then he watches the wedding from afar, standing at a distance, like someone witnessing a happiness that doesn't quite belong to him. He turns his back and walks away alone, because that's the burden of being Albus Dumbledore, saving the world and then walking down the road all by yourself. Sometime in the future, on a dark night, the street lamps begin to go out, one by one, sucked away by a strange little device in the hand of an old man with a silver beard and half-moon spectacles. This is Albus Dumbledore, the most powerful wizard in the world, and he's not there by accident. On the curb, a tabby cat observes everything with an attention far too peculiar for a cat. When Dumbledore turns and greets the creature by name, the animal transforms into a severe-looking woman in a pointed hat. Minerva McGonagall. She has spent the entire day there, watching the family that lives at number 4 Privet Drive, and her verdict is categorical. These people are the absolute worst sort of ordinary, and the matter is serious. James and Lily Potter are dead, murdered, and their son Harry, a 1-year-old baby, is being brought here at this very moment. The roar of an engine cuts through the silence. A bearded half-giant named Hagrid descends from a flying motorcycle with a bundle in his arms. Baby Harry, sleeping as if the world hadn't just collapsed around him. McGonagall refuses to accept the idea. Leave this child with the Dursleys? With these people? But Dumbledore explains. Petunia, the lady of the house, is Lily's sister. They share the same blood, and that blood tie is the only thing that can keep Harry safe. Dumbledore places the baby on the doorstep. He tucks a letter into the blanket, and before walking away, he looks at that boy one last time and wishes him good luck. He's going to need it. 10 years pass, and luck clearly hasn't arrived. Harry Potter is now 11 years old, sleeps in a cupboard under the stairs, and lives like a live-in servant at his aunt and uncle's house. Vernon, his uncle, is a massive, boorish man. Petunia, his aunt, treats Harry like a stain on the carpet, and Dudley, his cousin, is a spoiled, violent brat who makes Harry's life a living hell every single day. The routine is cruel. Harry cooks breakfast, but barely eats. Dudley gets mountains of presents for his birthday, and Harry doesn't even get a happy birthday. The entire family makes a point of crushing anything that seems different, anything that even hints at the extraordinary. During a family outing to the zoo, Harry talks to a snake. Literally, the snake answers back, and when Dudley shoves Harry aside to get a better look at the animal, the glass of the terrarium simply vanishes. The snake escapes, Dudley falls into the tank, and the blame? All on Harry, of course, even though no one understands how it happened. After that incident, letters start arriving for Harry. Dozens, hundreds, delivered by owls, stuffed through every crack in the house. Vernon loses his mind. He boards up the door, seals the mail slot, and drags the whole family to a miserable shack on an island in the middle of nowhere, all to stop Harry from reading those letters. But at midnight on Harry's 11th birthday, the door to the shack is blown off its hinges, and in walks Hagrid, the same bearded giant who brought baby Harry to that house. He looks at the scrawny boy with taped-up glasses, sleeping on the cold floor, and says the words that change everything. "Harry, you're a wizard." That's not all. Hagrid brings a squashed but lovingly made birthday cake, along with the letter Vernon spent days trying to hide. Harry has been accepted into Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
Thank you.
It's not every day your young man turns 11 now, is it?
Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School.
When Vernon tries to stop him, Hagrid glares at him and Petunia, exposing the lie they've maintained for a decade. They always knew, they always hid it. And when Vernon has the brilliant idea of insulting Dumbledore, Hagrid gives Dudley a pig's tail right on his backside. For the first time in his life, Harry truly smiles. The next morning, the world changes color. Hagrid takes Harry to Diagon Alley, an entire street hidden behind a brick wall in London, bustling with wizards, cauldrons, owls, and cloaks. It's as if someone opened a door to a universe that had always existed, but Harry never knew was there. First stop, Gringotts, the wizarding bank, run by goblins. Harry discovers his parents left him a fortune in gold. Afterward, he buys his uniform, books, and potion ingredients. And in a dark, dusty shop, he finds the most important thing of all, his wand. The wand maker, Ollivander, has him try several until one chooses Harry. The chilling detail is that its twin wand, the only other one like it in the world, belongs to the wizard who murdered his parents. Hagrid tops off the day with the gift of a snowy owl. And right there, sitting at a table in the leaky cauldron, he tells Harry the whole truth. A dark wizard named Lord Voldemort murdered James and Lily Potter, but when he tried to kill Harry, the curse rebounded. Voldemort lost his powers and nearly died. Harry survived with nothing but a lightning bolt scar on his forehead. Ever since that night, he's been famous. The boy who lived. Weeks later, Harry is at King's Cross Station, looking for a platform that doesn't exist. 9 3/4. He finds it thanks to a loud, red-haired family, the Weasleys. All it takes is running straight at a brick wall. On the other side, a red train waits. In his compartment, Harry meets Ron Weasley, a freckled boy from a big family with empty pockets. The two hit it off immediately. Shortly after, a bossy girl with bushy hair barges into the compartment looking for a lost toad, Hermione Granger, born to ordinary parents, but with a knowledge of magic that would make any veteran wizard blush. Together, these three will forge an alliance that will outlast any train ride. Hogwarts appears on the horizon like a fairy tale castle, only real. Candles float in the air, staircases move on their own, and ghosts stroll down the corridors like it's a typical Tuesday. First-year students are led to the Great Hall for the sorting ceremony. A frayed old hat is placed on each student's head to decide which of the 4 houses they will join: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, or Slytherin. When it's Harry's turn, the sorting hat whispers in his ear. It tells him Slytherin would make him a great wizard. Harry, who had already heard that Voldemort came from there, begs to be placed anywhere but Slytherin. The hat hesitates, then announces Gryffindor, the same house as his parents. Ron and Hermione join him there, but it isn't all celebration. At the teacher's table, Harry spots a greasy-haired man with a piercing gaze watching him. Severus Snape, the potions master and head of Slytherin. From the very first second, there is something sinister about that look. Life at Hogwarts begins, and Harry absorbs everything like a sponge. Charms, potions, transfiguration classes. By the end of the first week, news spreads. Someone broke into Gringotts, and the vault they tried to rob was the exact one Harry and Hagrid had visited that day. In flying class, Harry discovers a natural talent for riding a broomstick. When Draco Malfoy, an arrogant Slytherin boy, steals an object from Neville Longbottom and flies off with it, Harry goes after him. Fearless, acting on pure instinct, he pulls off maneuvers no first year should be able to do. McGonagall sees everything from a window. Instead of punishing him, she drags Harry straight to the captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Harry becomes the new Seeker, the youngest player in over a century, and he discovers his father used to play too. One night, Harry, Ron, and Hermione accidentally wander into the forbidden third-floor corridor. They come face to face with a giant 3-headed dog. After managing to escape, Hermione points out a detail. The beast was standing on a trap door. It's guarding something. During the Halloween feast, Professor Quirrell, a stuttering, fearful man who teaches defense against the dark arts, bursts into the Great Hall in a panic, screaming that there's a troll in the dungeon. While everyone runs to their dormitories, Harry and Ron realize Hermione doesn't know about the danger. She's in the bathroom. The two rush there and find the troll already inside. A massive, foul-smelling, brainless, and lethal creature. In a sequence that is equal parts heroic and clumsy, Ron manages to knock the beast out with its own club using a levitation charm.
Wingardium Leviosa!
When the teachers arrive, Hermione lies to protect the boys, and from that moment on, the three are inseparable. In the first Quidditch match, Harry's broomstick goes rogue. It bucks, spins, and tries to throw him into the void. In the stands, Hermione sees Snape with his eyes locked on Harry, muttering non-stop. She's certain it's him. Hermione sneaks over to the stands and sets Snape's robes on fire. The distraction works, the broom stops rebelling, and Harry catches the golden snitch. Gryffindor wins. After the game, Hagrid accidentally lets a name slip, Nicholas Flamel, and that name changes everything. On Christmas, Harry receives an anonymous gift, an invisibility cloak that belonged to his father. He uses the cloak to explore the library at night, trying to figure out who Flamel is. In a hidden corridor, he finds the Mirror of Erised, a mirror that shows the deepest, most desperate desire of the onlooker's heart. Harry sees his parents. For the first time, he sees their faces, smiling back at him. Dumbledore appears and explains that the mirror does not show truth, and that many men have lost their minds looking into it. He moves the mirror and asks Harry not to go looking for it again. The scene is quiet and heavy. Harry, a boy who grew up without love, has finally seen what he desires most, and now he must accept that he cannot have it. When classes resume, the trio finally discovers who Nicholas Flamel is, the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone, an object capable of producing the elixir of life, granting immortality to whoever drinks it. The conclusion is immediate. The three-headed dog is guarding the stone, and Snape wants to steal it. While visiting Hagrid, they uncover another surprise. The big man is hatching a dragon egg. The creature is born, a baby Norwegian ridgeback dragon that Hagrid names Norbert and treats like a son. Harry, Ron, and Hermione convince Hagrid to send the dragon to Romania, but they get caught by Draco, and later, by McGonagall. Detention for everyone. The punishment takes place deep in the Forbidden Forest. At night, searching for an injured unicorn, Harry and Draco separate from the group and find what is left of the unicorn, a hooded creature drinking the animal's blood. The thing turns toward Harry and advances. Draco flees. Harry is paralyzed. He is saved by a centaur, who chases the creature away and explains the gravity of what Harry just saw. That was Voldemort. Weak, desperate, feeding on unicorn blood to survive. And if anyone puts the Philosopher's Stone in his hands, it's all over. Harry puts the pieces together. Hagrid lets slip that the dog falls asleep to music, and that he told this to a stranger at the pub. The trio deduces that the stranger was Snape, and when they learn that Dumbledore has left the school on business, they know tonight is the night. If they don't act now, Snape will steal the stone and hand it over to Voldemort. The three of them pass by the dog, asleep to the sound of a harp, drop down a trapdoor, and face a series of brutal traps. A killer plant that squeezes its victims until they suffocate. Hermione remembers the right spell, a room filled with hundreds of flying keys, where only one opens the door. Harry mounts a broomstick and catches the right key with the precision of a seeker. And then, a giant, violent chessboard, where the pieces are life-sized and physically attack. Ron takes charge, plays the game of his life, and sacrifices himself to clear the way. He is struck down by a piece and falls unconscious. Hermione stays with him. Harry goes on alone. In the final room, Harry doesn't find Snape. He finds Quirrell, the stuttering, fearful professor no one took seriously. It was him all along. He was the one who let the troll in on Halloween. He was the one who jinxed the broom during the game. Snape wasn't the villain. Snape was trying to protect Harry. Quirrell forces Harry to look into the Mirror of Erised. Due to an enchantment placed by Dumbledore, the stone magically appears in Harry's pocket, because he is the only one who wants to find it without using it. When Quirrell realizes Harry has the stone, he removes his turban, and on the back of his head, attached like a parasite, is the face of Voldemort, deformed, speaking with a voice that freezes the blood. Voldemort tries to negotiate. He claims he can bring Harry's parents back. Harry looks at that face and refuses. Quirrell lunges to kill Harry with his bare hands, but something happens. The instant he touches the boy's skin, Quirrell's flesh begins to burn. He screams, crumbles, and turns to ash, and from the destroyed body, Voldemort's spirit emerges like a furious shadow, passes right through Harry, and vanishes. Harry falls unconscious. He wakes up in the hospital wing with Dumbledore by his side. The stone has been destroyed. Ron and Hermione are fine, and the explanation for what happened is the most beautiful and tragic thing Harry has ever heard. When Lily Potter placed herself between between Voldemort and her son, her sacrifice created a protection so powerful that Voldemort cannot touch Harry. His touch burns. His mother's love literally saved his life. Harry leaves the infirmary and reunites with a fully recovered Ron and Hermione. At the end of year feast, Slytherin leads the house championship by a wide margin. The Gryffindor students have already accepted defeat, but Dumbledore stands up and awards some last-minute points. 50 to Hermione for her brilliant use of intellect under pressure, 50 to Ron for the best game of chess Hogwarts has seen in years, 60 to Harry for pure courage. Gryffindor ties with Slytherin, and then 10 points to Neville Longbottom for having the bravery to stand up to his own friends. Gryffindor wins. The hall erupts.
Gryffindor wins the House Cup.
But the most important moment isn't the cup. It's what Harry feels when he looks back from the train, watching the castle fade into the horizon. For the first time in his life, he knows what it means to have a home. Hogwarts isn't just a school. It's the home he never had. Harry Potter survived Voldemort, discovered he was a wizard, and made real friends for the first time in his life. And as a reward for all that, he heads back to the Dursleys' house to spend the most miserable summer of his existence. It's 1992, and the boy is locked up at number 4 Privet Drive, unable to use magic outside of school, not receiving a single letter from his friends, and without even being able to let his owl, Hedwig, out of her padlocked cage. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia made absolutely sure that no trace of the wizarding world escaped that house. To Harry, it's as if Ron and Hermione had simply forgotten he existed. On the night of his 12th birthday, a creature with huge eyes and bat-like ears appears in his bedroom, a house elf named Dobby, and he hasn't come bearing good news. Dobby begs Harry not to return to Hogwarts, warning him that a mortal danger awaits him there. And what's more, he confesses that he was the one who intercepted all of his friends' letters. He thought that if Harry felt abandoned, he would give up on going back, but Harry isn't exactly the type to back down. He insists he's going back and tries to grab the letters, so Dobby, seeing that talking won't work, springs into action. He goes downstairs where Uncle Vernon is hosting a highly important dinner party for the Masons, a client who could make or break his career at the drill manufacturing company, and with a hover charm, drops a giant cake right on the man's wife's head. Vernon's night is ruined. And guess who takes the blame? Harry, of course. His uncle installs iron bars on his bedroom window. No Hogwarts this year. Except the very next night, a blue car appears floating right outside the barred window. Ron Weasley and his twin brothers, Fred and George, have come to the rescue in a flying Ford Anglia belonging to their dad, Arthur Weasley, a Ministry of Magic employee in the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts office. The irony of the guy who regulates bewitched Muggle objects having a flying car in his garage is just too beautiful to ignore. They rip the bars off the window, Harry grabs his things, and he escapes to freedom. The Burrow, the Weasleys' home, is everything the Dursleys' house isn't: chaotic, noisy, crowded, and genuinely welcoming. Harry spends a few happy days there before the whole family takes a trip via the Flu Network to Diagon Alley to buy school supplies, this time including Ron's youngest sister, Ginny Weasley, who is about to start her first year. In Diagon Alley, Harry reunites with Hermione and Hagrid in a bookstore called Flourish and Blots, which is in absolute chaos due to a book signing. The author is Gilderoy Lockhart, a wizard with a gleaming smile and an ego the size of a dragon, who has just been appointed as the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher at Hogwarts. Lockhart spots Harry in the crowd and immediately pulls him into the spotlight, because nothing attracts more attention than putting two celebrities together. On their way out of the bookstore, the trio crosses paths with Draco Malfoy, and this time, he is accompanied by his father, Lucius Malfoy, who is exactly what you'd imagine: aristocratic, arrogant, and venomous. Lucius trades barbs with Arthur Weasley over a Muggle Protection Act, and in the midst of the commotion, he does something nobody notices at the time. He slips an old diary into Ginny's belongings. When the day comes to board the Hogwarts Express, Harry and Ron sprint toward the barrier between platforms 9 and 10, except the passage seals shut. They crash face first into the brick wall like any two ordinary Muggles. Dobby sealed the barrier. With the train departing without them, the two make the most logical choice available to a pair of 12-year-old boys. They hijack the flying car and drive off through the English skies chasing after the Hogwarts Express. The plan works, until it stops working. The car's invisibility booster fails. Muggles spot a Ford Anglia flying through the sky, and when they finally reach the school grounds, the car decides it's had enough. They crash straight into the Whomping Willow, a tree that literally hits back when you touch it. The car gets battered shattered by the branches. Ron's wand snaps in the process, and after spitting the two of them out along with all their luggage, the vehicle speeds off on its own into the middle of the Forbidden Forest, as if it had decided it had put up with enough from these two. Filch, the caretaker, drags them to Snape, who shows them their picture plastered in the Evening Prophet and practically savors the prospect of expelling them. But Dumbledore and McGonagall intervene. No expulsion, but detention? Absolutely. Back to the Hogwarts routine, Harry becomes the center of unwanted attention from three people all at once. Lockhart, who wants to use the boy's fame to boost his own. Colin Creevey, a first-year student who never puts his camera down and treats Harry like a celebrity. And Ginny Weasley, who turns as red as a tomato every time Harry looks at her. But things get serious on Halloween. During his detention with Lockhart, Harry hears strange voices that no one else can hear. Voices coming from inside the walls. Following the sound, he finds Filch's cat, Mistress Norris, petrified, hanging from a torch bracket, and right next to her, a message written in blood on the wall. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware. The castle plunges into fear.
Enemies of the air, beware.
Everyone will proceed to their dormitories immediately.
In Transfiguration class, McGonagall explains the legend. One of the four founders of Hogwarts, Salazar Slytherin, built a secret chamber inside the school before leaving. Inside it, he hid a monster that only the true heir of Slytherin could unleash. And the purpose of this monster? To purge the school of Muggle-born students whom Salazar deemed unworthy of studying magic. The petrification attacks continue throughout the year. Harry and Ron suspect Draco Malfoy is the heir, so Hermione suggests a plan. Brew Polyjuice Potion to disguise themselves as Slytherin students and extract the truth out of him. They set up their clandestine lab in the abandoned bathroom haunted by the ghost of Moaning Myrtle, a former student who spends eternity crying in the plumbing. Before the plan can succeed, however, another event worsens Harry's situation. In a dueling club class organized by Snape and Lockhart, Malfoy conjures a snake that advances toward a student named Justin Finch Fletchley. Harry, running on instinct, speaks to the snake in snake language, Parseltongue, the ability to speak to serpents. The entire Great Hall freezes, because this is an extremely rare ability, directly associated with Salazar Slytherin. Suddenly, half the school is looking at Harry as if he were the heir. What no one knows is that Harry inherited this ability on the night Voldemort tried to kill him as a baby. At Christmas, the Polyjuice Potion is finally ready. Harry and Ron transform into Crabbe and Goyle, Malfoy's cronies. Hermione, however, runs into a problem. The hair she plucked from another student's uniform belonged to a cat, and since the potion is strictly for human transformations, she ends up partially feline. Furry ears, a tail, whiskers, not a pretty sight. She stays behind while the other two go pump Malfoy for information. In the Slytherin common room, they discover that Draco has no idea who the heir is, but he does let slip something his father told him. The last time the chamber was opened, 50 years ago, a girl died. Before Hermione is fully recovered in the hospital wing, Harry finds an old diary. It belonged to a former Slytherin student and prefect named Tom Marvolo Riddle, and this diary is no ordinary book. When Harry writes in it, the diary writes back. What's more, it pulls Harry into a memory, a flashback to the year 1943, exactly 50 years prior. In the memory, Harry watches authorities carrying Moaning Myrtle's body out of Hogwarts, and he sees a young Riddle accusing Hagrid, then just a student, of having opened the chamber and unleashing the monster, a giant spider named Aragog. That accusation resulted in Hagrid's expulsion. The attacks intensify, more students are petrified, and then the worst happens. Hermione is attacked. When McGonagall leads Harry and Ron to their friend's petrified body, the gravity of the situation completely shifts. The diary disappears. The school is in a state of panic. Harry and Ron head down to confront Hagrid, but before they can ask any questions, Dumbledore arrives alongside Cornelius Fudge, the Minister for Magic, and Lucius Malfoy. Fudge has come to take Hagrid to Azkaban as a precautionary measure. Lucius, in turn, uses his influence as a school governor to suspend Dumbledore from his position. Before being taken away, Hagrid drops one last disguised piece of advice. Follow the spiders, and look after Fang. So off go Harry and Ron, dragging Hagrid's cowardly boarhound into the Forbidden Forest, following a trail of spiders. The trail leads them straight to Aragog, the giant spider. Aragog confirms that Hagrid is innocent, that he never opened the chamber, and reveals that the dead girl was found in a bathroom. As for the real monster, he and his kind can't even speak its name out of sheer terror terror, and after this highly productive chat, Aragog decides the boys will make a fine dinner for his entire colony of giant spiders, because gratitude has its limits. The feral Ford Anglia bursts out of nowhere and saves the two in a rescue no one asked for, but everyone desperately needed. Back at the castle, Harry finds a torn-out book page clutched in Hermione's petrified hand. The girl had figured out the answer before being attacked. The monster is a basilisk, a giant serpent whose direct gaze kills instantly and whose indirect gaze petrifies. Suddenly, it all clicks. Colin saw the basilisk through his camera lens. Justin saw it through the ghost of nearly headless Nick, who absorbed the full brunt of the stare. Hermione was holding a mirror. Mistress Norris saw its reflection in a puddle of water, and the basilisk had been moving through the school's plumbing the whole time. And moaning Myrtle, the girl in the bathroom, was the fatal victim from 50 years ago. Then a new message appears on the wall. Her skeleton will lie in the chamber forever. And Minerva notices that Ginny Weasley has been taken. The teachers decide that Lockhart, the great expert, should be the one to go save her. When Harry and Ron go to fetch him, they find the guy packing his bags to flee. The great hero who defeated werewolves and vampires in his books? A complete fraud. The only thing Lockhart actually knows how to do is wipe other wizards' memories and steal their stories. Knowing that Myrtle was killed in the bathroom, Harry and Ron drag Lockhart down there. Harry speaks Parseltongue to the sink, and the entrance to the chamber reveals itself. A massive tunnel hidden behind a column of circular sinks. The three of them jump down. Down in the dark, echoing subterranean tunnels, they find a gigantic, shed snakeskin. Lockhart fakes a swoon, snatches Ron's snapped wand, and attempts to wipe both of their memories. But the malfunctioning wand backfires the spell onto himself. The ceiling partially collapses, separating Harry from Ron and the now amnesiac Lockhart. Harry presses on alone. He finds a circular door. The Chamber of Secrets itself, an immense gloomy cavern lined with towering serpent pillars and a colossal statue of Salazar Slytherin at the far end. And there on the floor, unconscious, is Ginny. Harry rushes over to her, and then a voice speaks. It's the translucent ghost of a 16-year-old boy, Tom Riddle, stepped right out of the diary, a preserved memory. Riddle explains everything with an icy calm. He used the diary to manipulate Ginny all year long. She was the one who opened the chamber, who wrote the bloody messages on the walls, all under his control. When Ginny realized what was happening, she panicked and tried to get rid of the diary, which Harry then found. And then Riddle does something that chills the blood. He takes Harry's wand, writes his full name in the air in glowing letters, Tom Marvolo Riddle, and rearranges them. I am Lord Voldemort, the heir of Slytherin, the dark wizard who murdered Harry's parents. He's not a follower. He is Voldemort himself, preserved as a memory from when he was 16, and he is now draining Ginny's life force to become real once again. Riddle gloats. He recounts how he framed Hagrid 50 years prior, how he planned to make his name a synonym for terror, how he intends to surpass even Dumbledore. Harry, even backed into a corner, fiercely defends Hagrid and Dumbledore, and in that very moment, something happens. Dumbledore's phoenix, Fawkes, swoops into the chamber, carrying the Sorting Hat. Riddle laughs. A bird and an old hat. Is that what Dumbledore sends to save the boy? Riddle summons the basilisk from the mouth of Slytherin's statue. The monstrous serpent slithers out, ready to kill, but Fawkes dive bombs and gouges out the creature's eyes. Its fatal gaze is destroyed. The basilisk is still lethal, but now it's blind. After a desperate chase through the chamber, with Harry darting between the pillars while the snake tracks him by sound, he circles back to the Sorting Hat. He jams his hand inside and pulls out a sword. The sword of Godric Gryffindor. It materialized there because Harry is a true Gryffindor. He scales Slytherin's statue and with a single upward strike drives the blade through the roof of the basilisk's mouth. The creature drops dead, but one of the serpent's fangs pierced Harry's arm during the attack. Basilisk venom is absolutely fatal. Harry feels his body weakening as Riddle watches, thoroughly satisfied, waiting for the boy to die and his own full return to life. Ginny is almost dead. Riddle is almost alive. With his dying strength, Harry yanks the fang from his arm and plunges it into the diary. Ink spurts out like blood. Tom Riddle's memory screams, writhes, and dissolves into bursting light. Ginny wakes up gasping, but Harry is dying. Then Fawkes lands beside him. Phoenix tears fall onto the wound, and Phoenix tears have healing powers. Harry survives. Ginny recovers. All the petrified victims are restored. Hermione, Mistress Norris, Justin, nearly headless Nick, and Colin. The next morning, Harry puts the pieces together. It was Lucius Malfoy who slipped Riddle's diary into Ginny's belongings that day at the bookstore. Proving it, however, is another story. Dobby appears and reveals that he is the servant of the Malfoy family, and that he knew about the plot all along. That was why he spent the whole year trying to keep Harry from returning to Hogwarts, to protect him. Harry gets an idea. He tucks an old sock inside the diary and hands it to Lucius Malfoy. The wizard, disgusted, tosses the diary to Dobby. The elf finds the sock hidden between the pages, and a piece of clothing presented by a master is exactly what frees a house elf. Dobby is free. Lucius, furious, tries to attack Harry, even starting to utter what sounds like a killing curse, but Dobby intervenes. The free elf protects the one who freed him. Dumbledore has one last chat with Harry. The boy confesses something that has been deeply bothering him. The Sorting Hat considered putting him in Slytherin. Speaking to snakes, his connection to Voldemort, it all haunts him. Dumbledore, with that wisdom only he possesses, answers simply and definitively. It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. And Harry wouldn't have been able to pull Gryffindor's sword from the hat if he didn't truly belong to that house. At the end of year feast, a fully restored Hermione reappears and sprints to hug Harry and Ron. Dumbledore announces that all exams have been cancelled, and Hagrid is released from Azkaban, welcomed back with thunderous applause from practically everyone. Practically. And after the credits, the front window of Flourish and Blots displays Gilderoy Lockhart's new book, Who Am I? On the cover is Lockhart himself, amnesiac, strapped into a straitjacket in a psychiatric ward. The perfect ending for someone who built his entire career by stealing other people's memories. Another summer at the Dursleys. And once again, Harry Potter is living like a prisoner in his own bedroom. While Ron is enjoying his vacation in Egypt and Hermione is touring France, Harry spends his nights studying magic hidden under the covers, terrified of getting caught. All he wants is a signature, a scribble on a piece of paper. If Uncle Vernon or Aunt Petunia sign his permission slip, he can visit Hogsmeade with his friends. A simple request, right? Wrong. At the Dursleys, nothing involving Harry is simple. On August 31st, a window of opportunity opens. Aunt Marge, Vernon's sister, comes for a visit. The deal is straightforward. Harry pretends he isn't a wizard, acts like a normal boy, and in exchange, Vernon signs the form. All Harry has to do is bite his tongue and keep his mouth shut. And look, he actually tries. But Marge doesn't make it easy. At dinner, the woman starts attacking Harry's parents without holding back. She calls James Potter a drunk. She calls Lily Potter something not worth repeating. And every word is like a knife twisting deeper. Harry takes it and takes it and takes it until he can't anymore. The anger takes over in a way he can't even control. The magic explodes on its own. Marge starts blowing up like a party balloon, floats across the living room, drifts out the window, and floats away into the night sky. Vernon is furious, screaming at Harry to fix it, but Harry, for the first time, doesn't back down. He says she deserved it. Vernon lunges at him, and Harry draws his wand, pointing it right at his uncle's face. Vernon freezes and spits out that Harry is going to be expelled from Hogwarts for using magic outside of school, and Harry knows he's probably right. Even so, he packs his trunk and leaves. Out on the street, alone, dragging his trunk in the dark, Harry spots something strange. A massive black dog in the shadows, watching him. Before he even has time to process it, a giant purple triple-decker bus appears out of nowhere. It's the Night Bus, the Wizarding World's emergency transport, and it takes Harry straight to the leaky cauldron. And there, a surprise awaits. The Minister for Magic himself, Cornelius Fudge, is waiting for him. But instead of an expulsion, Harry gets a smile and a guarantee he won't be punished. No consequences. No expulsion letter. Weird, right? Very weird. But Harry doesn't question it. Not yet. What he finds out is something else entirely. Sirius Black has broken out of Azkaban, the most secure prison in the wizarding world, guarded by Dementors, creatures that suck all the happiness out of anyone who gets close. And Sirius escaped. No one knows how, no one knows where he is, but the entire wizarding world is in a panic. And judging by the way Fudge talks, this breakout has everything to do with Harry. The next day, Harry heads down to the pub and catches a curious scene, a cat frantically chasing a rat around the place. He soon learns the rat is Scabbers, Ron's old battered pet, and and the cat is Crookshanks, Hermione's newest acquisition. The trio is officially back together. But before they board the train to Hogwarts, Arthur Weasley pulls Harry aside with a grim expression. He tells him that Sirius Black is likely coming after him, and he warns him do not go looking for him no matter what happens. Harry is genuinely confused. Why on earth would he go looking for someone who wants to kill him? On the Hogwarts Express, Harry, Ron, and Hermione share a compartment with a sleeping man. The name on his battered suitcase reads Professor R.J. Lupin, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Before they can say much about him, the train screeches to a sudden halt in the middle of nowhere. The lights go out. A biting cold seeps into everything. The window freezes over. And then, the door slides open. A Dementor enters the compartment. It's the most terrifying creature Harry has ever encountered, and he's already faced Voldemort twice. The Dementor's presence affects Harry differently than the others. He hears screaming in his head, feels the world go dark, and passes out. When he comes to, Lupin is awake and standing, and the Dementor is gone. The professor used a Patronus charm to drive it away. He hands Harry a piece of chocolate and tells him it'll help. It's the first time someone has treated Harry with that kind of genuine care. At Hogwarts, Dumbledore announces to everyone that Dementors will be stationed around the school grounds until Sirius Black is captured. The message is clear. They are there to protect, but they are not to be provoked. Classes begin, and changes are immediately apparent. Hagrid is now the Care of Magical Creatures teacher. The trio also takes divination with Professor Trelawney, who reads Harry's tea leaves and dramatically announces that he has the Grim, an omen of death. Meanwhile, Hermione starts showing up in classes that take place at the exact same time, as if she has the gift of bilocation. No one understands how she does it, and she isn't explaining. Lupin's classes are a breath of fresh air. He teaches practical spells, encourages insecure students like Neville, and treats everyone with respect. Hagrid, not so much. In his very first class, Draco Malfoy deliberately provokes the Hippogriff, Buckbeak, and gets slashed. The result? Daddy Lucius Malfoy pulls some strings and manages to get the creature sentenced to death. Because if there's one thing the Malfoys know how to do, it's turn any situation into their own personal tragedy. When the day of the Hogsmeade visit arrives, Harry is left behind. Without Vernon's signature, he can't go. Instead, he spends his time talking to Lupin on the wooden bridge. And Lupin tells him something Harry desperately needed to hear. He knew James and Lily Potter. They were extraordinary people. For a boy who grew up being told his parents were unemployed drunks, those words are worth more than any field trip. But the peace is short-lived. Back at Gryffindor Tower, the portrait of the fat lady is empty. The canvas is slashed. They find her hiding in another painting. Terrified, Sirius Black broke into the castle. He tried to force his way into Gryffindor Tower. Dumbledore orders all the students to sleep in the Great Hall, and Snape takes the opportunity to insinuate that hiring a certain professor might have been a dangerous move. Dumbledore disagrees, but they both agree on one thing. Harry is in danger. In a defense class covered by Snape, because Lupin is indisposed, the topic is werewolves and animagus, wizards who can transform into a specific animal and return to human form at will. Snape teaches this with an underlying motive that, for now, remains unclear. During a Quidditch match, the Dementors show up again. Harry loses control of his broom, falls from a terrifying height, and only survives because Dumbledore slows his descent.
Momentum!
When he wakes up, he finds out his broom flew straight into the Whomping Willow and was smashed to splinters. That's the last straw. Harry decides he needs to learn how to defend himself against these creatures. Lupin agrees to teach him, but only after the holidays. He isn't feeling well. Right around Christmas, Harry tries to sneak into Hogsmeade but is intercepted by Fred and George Weasley. Instead of ratting him out, the twins hand him the Marauder's map, a magical map that shows every person inside Hogwarts and reveals secret passages. Harry uses one of them to reach the village, and there, he overhears something that changes everything. Sirius Black was his godfather, his parents' best friend, and according to everyone, he was the one who sold the Potter's hiding place out to Voldemort. Afterward, he murdered another friend of theirs, Peter Pettigrew, along with 12 muggles on a crowded street. Harry returns to school with his blood boiling. He tells his friends he hopes Black finds him, not so he can run, but so he can kill him. The holidays pass, and Lupin keeps his promise. He teaches Harry how to conjure a Patronus. He explains that the creature feeds on bad memories and dark thoughts, and the Patronus is the exact opposite. The happier the thought used, the stronger the spell. Harry tries several times, fails, tries again, and finally manages to produce one. Weak and flickering, but real. One night, using the Marauder's map, Harry sees something impossible. The name Peter Pettigrew appears on the parchment, walking around Hogwarts, alive. Harry follows the name through the dark corridors, but doesn't find anyone. Instead, he gets caught by Snape. Lupin shows up, snatches the map from Snape's hands, and escorts Harry away. In his office, he scolds Harry for walking around with the map. But when Harry mentions seeing Pettigrew on it, Lupin says that's impossible. Pettigrew is dead. Once Harry leaves, however, Lupin stands alone, staring at the map, in absolute silence. In divination class, after everyone else has left, Trelawney falls into a genuine trance. Her eyes roll back, her voice changes, and she prophesies that the Dark Lord's servant will return to his master that very night. Harry stands there, paralyzed. Harry, Ron, and Hermione go to comfort Hagrid before Buckbeak's execution. There, Hagrid hands Scabbers back to Ron. The rat had gone missing and turned up in his hut. On their way back, while carrying Scabbers, the rat freaks out and escapes. Ron chases after him, and suddenly, a massive black dog appears, grabs Ron, and drags him down a hole at the base of the Whomping Willow. Harry and Hermione go after them, and find a tunnel that leads to the Shrieking Shack. And inside, the dog transforms into Sirius Black. Lupin arrives shortly after, but instead of attacking Sirius, he embraces him like an old friend. Hermione confronts Lupin, and he admits the truth. He's a werewolf. Snape bursts in, ready to hand Black and Lupin over to the Dementors, but Harry knocks him out with a well-aimed Expelliarmus. Then, Lupin and Sirius explain everything. Scabbers isn't a rat. He's Peter Pettigrew in his animagus form. Everything Sirius was convicted of was actually Pettigrew's doing. He was the one who betrayed the Potters. He was the one who killed those muggles. And then he hid in the form of a rat for 12 years. The two force Pettigrew back into his human form and prepare to kill him, but Harry stops them. He says it's not what James would have wanted. On the way back to the castle, the full moon rises. Lupin begins to transform. Pettigrew seizes the chaotic moment and escapes. Lupin and Sirius fight in their animal forms until Lupin is distracted by a distant wolf howl and runs off into the forest. Harry and Sirius are left alone, and the Dementors descend, dozens of them. The freezing cold paralyzes everything. Sirius is attacked first. His soul begins to be sucked out. Harry tries to fight them off, but fails. At the very last second, he sees a figure on the opposite shore of the lake cast a massive stag-shaped Patronus that drives all the Dementors away. After that, everything fades to black. Harry wakes up in the hospital wing. Hermione tells him Sirius was captured and is about to receive the Dementor's kiss. Dumbledore arrives, and the two beg him, swearing Sirius is innocent. Dumbledore believes them, but he warns them that no one else will. No proof, no witnesses. Then, he looks at Hermione and says something strange, that she might have the means to save two innocent lives. That 3 turns should do it, and he walks out. Hermione reveals the secret behind her simultaneous classes all year, a time turner, a magical device that lets you travel back in time. She and Harry give it 3 spins and go back 3 hours. They watch themselves living out the events of the evening. They free Buckbeak before the execution. They head back to the Whomping Willow. They're chased by Lupin in his werewolf form, but Buckbeak swoops in and fights him off, saving them. Then, Harry and Hermione run down to the lake. The Dementors are attacking the other Harry and Sirius. Harry waits for the mysterious figure to appear. He waits, and no one shows up, until it finally hits him. The figure he saw wasn't his dad, it was himself. Harry raises his wand and casts the most powerful Patronus he has ever conjured. The stag of pure light erupts across the lake and scatters all the Dementors.
Expecto Patronum!
They fly on Buckbeak up to the tower where Sirius is locked up and break him out. Harry and Sirius share a look. Without proof of his innocence, Sirius will have to keep running. Harry's dream of living with his godfather dies right there, in that tower. But at least Sirius is free. He's alive. And for now, that's enough. Sirius mounts Buckbeak and vanishes into the night sky. Harry and Hermione sprint back to the hospital wing and arrive at the exact second Dumbledore is walking out. He asks if they were successful. They say yes, and Dumbledore acts like he has no idea what they're talking about, putting on the most innocent face in the world. The two walk back inside and find Ron completely bewildered, totally unable to grasp how they vanished and reappeared in seconds. At the end of the term, Lupin resigns. He knows that once parents find out he's a werewolf, None of them will want him near their children. It's the second time in 3 years that Harry loses the best defense teacher he's ever had. Shortly after, a package arrives. A firebolt, the fastest broom in the world, a gift from Sirius. It's his way of saying that even from a distance, even while on the run, he's there, looking out for the godson he never got the chance to raise. An old man named Frank Bryce wakes up in the dead of night in an abandoned house. He is the groundskeeper of the estate, and he notices lights on upstairs. Lights that shouldn't be there. Frank climbs the stairs, and what he finds is a conversation he was never meant to hear. A frail, sinister voice speaks of a plan to get to Harry Potter, with the help of Wormtail and an unidentified young man. Before Frank can grasp what is going on, Voldemort kills him with the killing curse. Just like that. No warning, no chance. Harry wakes up with a start. It was all a dream, or at least, that's what he wants to believe. His scar burns, and the feeling that something terrible is brewing just won't go away, but Hermione is there to snap him out of it because they've got plans. The trio, along with the Weasley family, heads to the Quidditch World Cup. They travel by Portkey and run into Amos Diggory and his son Cedric. The match is the final between Ireland and Bulgaria, and the game is a spectacle. Ireland wins, but the celebratory mood is short-lived. In the middle of the night, the campsite descends into chaos. A group of Death Eaters appears, spreading terror, setting fire to tents, and torturing muggles for fun. Harry is separated from the others in the confusion, takes a hit, and falls unconscious. When he comes to, he sees the young man from his dream, that face he can't quite identify, casting the dark mark into the sky. The guy flees before anyone can catch him, and Voldemort's symbol hovers over the destroyed camp as a stark reminder that terror was never as far away as everyone would like to believe. Hogwarts welcomes the students back with news no one expected. The Triwizard Tournament is going to be held at the school. For the uninitiated, this tournament is basically the Olympics of the wizarding world. Dangerous, glorious, and with a considerable body count. Delegations from 2 schools arrive to compete, Beauxbatons from France and Durmstrang from Northern Europe. But the most striking entrance of the night doesn't belong to a foreign student. It belongs to Alistair Mad-Eye Moody, the new defense against the dark arts teacher. The guy marches into the Great Hall with that magical eye spinning in every direction, and everyone can feel that this year is going to be different. The Goblet of Fire is the one that decides the tournament champions. Each school has a representative, and the goblet spits out 3 names. Fleur Delacour for Beauxbatons, Victor Crumb for Durmstrang, and Cedric Diggory for Hogwarts. All good, everything as expected, until the goblet begins to crackle again and shoots a 4th name into the air. Harry Potter. The entire room freezes. Dumbledore takes the parchment, reads the name, and stares at Harry with an intensity that makes everyone swallow hard. Harry swears he didn't put his name in there. Moody vouches for the kid's innocence, but Barty Crouch Sr., the ministry representative, makes it clear that it doesn't matter. The goblet created a binding magical contract. Harry is going to have to compete whether he wants to or not. A 14-year-old boy against 3 older, more prepared teenagers. Fair. And the whole school, which really should know Harry by now, decides he cheated. The corridors are filled with dirty looks and nasty comments, but the blow that truly hurts comes from the person Harry least expected, Ron. His best friend, the guy who faced giant spiders and dark wizards by his side, gets jealous. Ron believes Harry entered the tournament without telling him, and their friendship fractures. Harry is left all alone when he needs support the most. The first task is revealed thanks to Hagrid, who sneaks Harry into the Forbidden Forest to show him what's waiting for him. Dragons. 4 massive, furious, and absolutely deadly dragons. Harry needs to steal a golden egg from one of their nests. He warns Cedric about the task, because Harry is Harry and playing fair is almost a flaw at this point. And, with a tip from Moody, comes up with a plan using his firebolt. On the day of the trial, he summons his broom and turns the task into an insane flight, dodging jets of fire and claws until he manages to grab the egg. It's risky, it's spectacular, and it works. Watching Harry almost die for something he never asked for finally opens Ron's eyes. The redhead realizes that no one would willingly put themselves in that kind of danger, and the two make amends. Their friendship goes back to normal, as if that period of silence had never happened. With the first task out of the way, Hogwarts gears up for the Yule Ball. The event was supposed to be a moment of levity amidst all the tension, but it ends up being a complicated night. Ron finds out that Hermione went to the ball with Victor Crumb, the Durmstrang champion, one of the best Quidditch players in the world, and he doesn't handle it well. Not well at all. His jealousy explodes in a way that makes it clear to everyone, except Ron himself, how he truly feels about Hermione. The night ends on a heavy note with words that shouldn't have been said. Harry has another dream. This time, he sees the scene from Frank Bryce's point of view, the old man from the beginning. He feels the fear, hears Voldemort's voice, and wakes up the exact moment the killing curse is cast. His scar burns. These dreams are no coincidence, and Harry knows it. Cedric, grateful for the tip about the dragons, returns the favor. He tells Harry to take the golden egg to the prefect's bathroom and submerge it in water. Harry follows the advice and discovers that the clue is a song sung by merpeople. In the second task, he'll have to dive into the Black Lake and retrieve something precious that was taken from him. Something that, in reality, is someone. With the help of Neville Longbottom, who finds a book on gillyweed, a plant that allows you to breathe underwater, Harry gets ready. During the trial, he dives into the lake and swims down to the merpeople's village, where he finds Ron chained down by magic. He rescues his friend, but notices that Gabrielle Delacour, Fleur's little sister, is still there. Fleur couldn't finish the task because of a Grindylow attack. Harry can't just leave the little girl there. He goes back, frees Gabrielle, and brings them both up. The act of heroism costs him first place in time, but earns him second place in points, tied with Cedric, and 2 kisses from an extremely grateful Fleur. After the task, Harry runs into Barty Crouch Sr., who congratulates him and says his parents would be very proud. The conversation is cut short by Moody, who shows up throwing accusations that Crouch is trying to recruit Harry. As Crouch walks away, Moody makes a strange movement with his tongue, a quick, almost reptilian flick that clearly unsettles Crouch Sr. shortly after, while walking through the forest with Hagrid and the others. Harry finds Crouch Sr.'s body, dead. Harry runs to Dumbledore's office, where he finds the headmaster arguing with Cornelius Fudge. The Minister for Magic refuses to cancel the tournament, stating he doesn't want to be seen as a coward. When they notice Harry's presence, they all leave, Dumbledore offering him some licorice snaps with a warning that they bite a little. Left alone in the office, Harry stumbles upon a secret entrance and discovers Dumbledore's pensieve. Too curious for his own good, he leans in, stares into the silvery mist, and is sucked into a memory. He lands in a courtroom where he witnesses old trials. He finds out that Igor Karkaroff, the headmaster of Durmstrang, was a Death Eater. And more importantly, he learns that Barty Crouch Sr. had a son by the same name, a son who was a Death Eater. Harry recognizes the face. It's the young man from his dream, the one who cast the dark mark at the World Cup. When he tells Dumbledore, the headmaster asks him to put the matter out of his mind for now. Heading back to the Gryffindor common room, Harry catches Karkaroff showing the dark mark on his arm while arguing with Snape in a potions closet. Snape, in turn, takes the opportunity to taunt Harry, accusing him of stealing ingredients from his private stores and threatening to use Veritaserum on him if anything else goes missing. The third task is a maze. The Triwizard Cup sits right in the center, and whoever reaches it first wins. The maze was built by Moody and is heavily enchanted. The walls shift, gusts of wind try to disorient the champions, and danger lurks around every corner. Inside the maze, Krum, seemingly bewitched, attacks Fleur and tries to do the same to Cedric. Cedric defends himself with a disarming charm and knocks Krum out. Harry stops Cedric from going any further and they push on. They both spot the cup at the same time. They sprint towards it, but living vines grab Cedric and start to swallow him whole. Harry goes back and saves him. After everything they've been through together, they decide to share the victory. They both grab the cup at the exact same time. And they are teleported, not to an award ceremony, not to a celebration, to a graveyard. Harry recognizes the place from his dreams. The realization hits him before he can even react. Wormtail appears carrying something in his arms, a grotesque, small, almost fetal shape. Voldemort. Harry's scar explodes in pain. He screams at Cedric to get back to the cup, but it's too late. Wormtail raises his wand and fires the killing curse. Cedric Diggory drops dead on the graveyard floor. Just like that. No fight, no chance, no warning. Harry is bound to a statue. Wormtail begins the ritual. He drops Voldemort into a cauldron, adds the bone of the father, slices off his own hand, and forcefully takes Harry's blood. The cauldron boils, erupts in a blinding light, and from within it rises Lord Voldemort, fully restored. In his own body for the first time in 13 years, Voldemort summons the Death Eaters. They apparate one by one, heads bowed. He berates them for abandoning him, gives Wormtail a new silver hand, and then turns to Harry. He explains to his followers how the boy survived all those years ago and touches Harry's scar, triggering an unbearable agony. Then, he frees him from the statue and forces him to duel. He tortures Harry with the Cruciatus curse. It's cruel, calculated, and absolutely personal. When their spells collide, something unexpected happens. Their wands connect, priori incantatem. The spirits of Voldemort's most recent victims begin to emerge. Frank Bryce, Cedric, and finally, Harry's parents, James and Lily Potter. Harry's father tells him to hold the connection, and that when he lets go, the spirits will create a distraction. Cedric asks Harry to take his body back. Harry's mother looks at him and gives the command, now. Harry breaks the connection. The spirits swarm Voldemort, buying Harry precious seconds.
Ready. Let's go! Let's go!
He runs, grabs Cedric's body, summons the cup with Accio, and is teleported back to Hogwarts. Voldemort howls in fury in the empty graveyard. The arrival at Hogwarts is devastating. The entire community, students, teachers, the other schools, sees Cedric's body. The band is still playing, the stands are still packed. No one was expecting this. Harry tries to talk to Dumbledore to tell him what happened, but amid the chaos, Moody pulls him aside and takes him to his office. And then comes the revelation. Moody confesses everything. He was the one who put Harry's name in the goblet. He was the one who suggested Hagrid show him the dragons. He was the one who told Cedric how to decipher the egg. He was the one who gave Neville the book on gillyweed. He was the one who bewitched Crumb in the maze. He was the one who turned the cup into a portkey. Every single step of the entire year was orchestrated to lead Harry to that graveyard. Dumbledore realizes that the real Moody would never take Harry away from him. He bursts into the office with Snape and McGonagall and disarms the imposter. Snape administers Veritaserum. The Polyjuice potion begins to wear off, and Moody's face melts away, revealing Barty Crouch Jr., the son, the young man from Harry's dream. The real Moody is found locked inside a magical trunk, weakened but alive. Before being taken away, Crouch Jr. makes that tongue flick once again, his trademark. In the Great Hall, a memorial feast is held in honor of Cedric Diggory. The silence carries more weight than any speech. Dumbledore stands up and announces, against the Minister for Magic's wishes, what everyone needs to hear. Lord Voldemort has returned. Harry, Ron, and Hermione exchange looks afterward. None of them need to say it out loud. Hogwarts has changed. The wizarding world has changed. And nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever be the same again. Cedric Diggory is dead. Voldemort is back with flesh, blood, and a thirst for revenge. And Harry Potter? Harry is stuck on Privet Drive in the middle of summer with no news, no answers, and no one telling him what is happening in the wizarding world. The boy who faced the most dangerous wizard of all time in a graveyard is now tossed aside in a muggle playground, dwelling on every second of that night. To make matters worse, Dudley decides to show up with his little gang to taunt him. His heavy-set cousin, who never missed a chance to make Harry's life miserable, starts poking exactly where it hurts. Harry bites his tongue. He bites it again. The two end up walking back home, but they never quite make it there. The air changes. The temperature plummets. The sky darkens in a way that has nothing to do with clouds. Dementors. Right there, in the most muggle suburb in England, two Dementors appear out of nowhere and charge at them. Dudley freezes, absolutely clueless about what's going on, and Harry does the only thing he can. He draws his wand and casts a Patronus. The silver stag erupts from the tip of his wand and drives the creatures away before the worst happens. Dudley is in a state of shock. Harry can barely process what he just did when a neighbor comes running. It's Mistress Fig, that cat lady who always kept an eye on him. Except she's not just any muggle. She's a squib, someone born into the wizarding world without magic, and Dumbledore placed her there on purpose to watch over Harry all these years. She helps drag Dudley back home while Harry tries to wrap his head around how Dementors ended up in Little Whinging. The answer doesn't take long. A howler arrives from the Ministry of Magic, from one Mafalda Hopkirk, and the message is blunt. Harry Potter is expelled from Hogwarts for using magic in front of a muggle. Just like that. No investigation, no chance to defend himself, no one asking why he did what he did. Expelled. But before despair takes over, the Order of the Phoenix shows up. Alastair Moody, the real one this time, leads the group that comes to get Harry, bringing news that changes everything. Dumbledore intervened. The expulsion has been suspended and turned into a disciplinary hearing. Harry still has a chance. The group flies him to number 12, Grimmauld Place, the ancestral home of the Black family, and it's there that Harry discovers Ron and Hermione have been staying since the beginning of summer. They knew everything. They knew about the Order, they knew about the hideout, and they didn't tell him a thing. Harry is furious, and rightfully so. The Order of the Phoenix is a secret organization founded by Dumbledore to fight Voldemort, and the names involved are heavy hitters: Sirius Black, Mr. and Mistress Weasley, Lupin, Tonks, a metamorph Magus witch who changes her appearance as easily as changing clothes, and Moody himself, all working in the shadows while the Ministry pretends everything is fine. Sirius, in a more private moment with Harry, drops some heavy information. Voldemort is after something he didn't have last time. What exactly? No one is saying. But the tone of his godfather's voice makes it clear that it's serious. Harry is not doing well. His nights are plagued by nightmares. Cedric dropping dead, the graveyard, Voldemort being reborn, all on a loop, every single night. The hearing at the Ministry arrives, and it's exactly the circus you'd expect. Cornelius Fudge, the Minister for Magic, conducts the trial with the subtlety of someone who has already decided the verdict before hearing the first word. When Harry explains what happened, Fudge flat out denies it. He doesn't want to hear about Voldemort, doesn't want to hear about Dementors outside of Azkaban, doesn't want to hear anything that threatens the comfortable narrative he's built. Dumbledore appears in Harry's defense, calm, surgical, devastating in his arguments. Mistress Fig gives her testimony as an eyewitness to the attack. Dumbledore even suggests that Voldemort might be behind the Dementors, but Fudge refuses to accept it. In the end, however, the logic is inescapable. Expelling an underage wizard for defending himself against Dementors in a life-or-death situation has absolutely no legal basis. Harry is cleared of all charges. Back at Hogwarts, the relief lasts exactly until the welcoming feast. Sitting at the staff table is Dolores Umbridge, short, dressed in pink from head to toe, with a sickly sweet smile that hides something rotten inside. She is the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and it's clear from the very first second that she is not there to teach. Umbridge is a Ministry puppet, planted at Hogwarts with a single mission: to squash any rumors of Voldemort's return and keep Dumbledore under control. In her first class, she makes it clear that the students will not be practicing magic. They will read pure theory. When Harry stands up and insists that Voldemort is back, that he saw it with his own eyes, Umbridge flashes a smile and sends him to detention. Detention is where the mask fully drops. Umbridge hands Harry a special quill. He must write, "I must not tell lies," repeatedly. Only this quill doesn't use ink. It uses Harry's own blood, carving the words into the back of his hand as he writes, line by line, night after night. And that's just the beginning. Umbridge promotes herself to High Inquisitor of Hogwarts and begins destroying everything she can. Restriction after restriction. Humiliating evaluations of the teachers. Any group of more than 3 students is banned without express permission. And when she decides Professor Trelawney isn't good enough, she fires her right there in the courtyard, in front of everyone, luggage and all. Trelawney breaks down in tears. Dumbledore intervenes. He accepts the dismissal, but prevents Umbridge from kicking Trelawney out of the castle. The pink-clad witch tries to argue, but Dumbledore is sharp. She has the power to dismiss teachers, not to banish people from the Hogwarts grounds. Meanwhile, Dumbledore is keeping his distance from Harry, on purpose. He knows that Harry's mind is connected to Voldemort's, that visions and strong emotions create a bridge between them. Every look, every direct conversation could strengthen that connection. So Dumbledore pulls away, and to Harry, it feels like abandonment. With Umbridge making Hogwarts uninhabitable and the Ministry denying reality, Harry, Ron, and Hermione decide to take action. Along with students from Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, and Hufflepuff, they form a secret group, Dumbledore's Army. The name is a tribute to the headmaster, and at the same time, a slap in the face to the Ministry that's trying to destroy him. The problem is, where to train? Neville Longbottom solves that. He finds the Room of Requirement, a hidden room in Hogwarts that transforms into exactly what a person needs. And what they need is a place to learn how to truly defend themselves. Harry becomes the teacher. He, who faced Voldemort, who produced a Patronus at 13, begins teaching defensive spells to his classmates. Dumbledore's army grows, and for the first time, the students feel like they're doing something real. In the midst of all this, Harry starts a relationship with Cho Chang, but the visions don't stop. One night, Harry sees something terrifying. Arthur Weasley being attacked by a giant snake in the Department of Mysteries. He wakes up in a panic, alerts the teachers, and the information arrives in time. Ron's dad is rescued alive. The vision saved someone, but it also proves that the connection to Voldemort is growing stronger. Over Christmas, Harry opens up to Sirius. He says he feels Voldemort inside him, that he's afraid he's turning into something dangerous. Sirius does what he can to comfort his godson, but the concern is real. Dumbledore makes a decision. He orders Snape to give Harry occlumency lessons, the art of closing one's mind against external invasion. The lessons are brutal. Snape invades Harry's memories without mercy, and the mutual hatred between the two makes everything worse. Harry begins to isolate himself from his friends. Meanwhile, the situation on the outside worsens. Bellatrix Lestrange, Sirius's deranged cousin, escapes from Azkaban, along with 9 other convicted Death Eaters. Voldemort's army is rebuilding. The fall of Dumbledore's army comes through betrayal. Umbridge, who had already been interrogating students, illegally uses Veritaserum on Cho Chang and uncovers the location of the Room of Requirement. The Inquisitorial Squad, Draco Malfoy and his Slytherin gang, raids the place. Harry is taken to Dumbledore's office, where Fudge and Ministry officials are already waiting. Dumbledore does what no one expects. He takes the full blame. After all, the group was called Dumbledore's Army, wasn't it? When they try to arrest him and send him to Azkaban, Dumbledore simply leaves. With Fawkes, his phoenix, he vanishes in a burst of flames, leaving everyone dumbfounded. Umbridge is named headmistress. In the occlumency lessons, the tension between Harry and Snape reaches its breaking point. Tired of the invasions and the insults, Harry fights back with a shield charm and accidentally penetrates Snape's mind. What he sees is devastating. Memories of a teenage Snape being mercilessly humiliated by James Potter and Sirius Black. The hero Father Harry had idealized appears there as a cruel bully. Snape is livid and terminates the occlumency lessons permanently. In the midst of all this, Fred and George Weasley decide they've had enough. During an exam, the twins set off a barrage of fireworks in the Great Hall, turning the place into glorious chaos. Umbridge's decrees explode right along with them. And then, with the entire school watching and cheering, the two mount their brooms and fly away from Hogwarts forever. It's the kind of exit that even the teachers secretly applaud. But the celebration is short-lived. Harry has another vision. Sirius, being tortured by Voldemort in the Department of Mysteries. Hermione tries to warn him that it might be a trap, that Voldemort could be manipulating his mind, but Harry can't be stopped. Sirius is the only family he has left. The trio rushes to Umbridge's fireplace to contact the Order via the Flu Network, but Umbridge and the Inquisitorial Squad intercept them. Cornered, Umbridge loses her composure and threatens to use the Cruciatus Curse on Harry to extract information. When she tries to get more Veritaserum from Snape, he coldly informs her that she already used it all on Cho Chang. Snape leaves the room, seemingly ignoring the coded warning Harry tries to send him. Harry and Hermione improvise. They trick Umbridge by telling her that Dumbledore has a secret weapon hidden in the Forbidden Forest. The pink-clad witch takes the bait and goes with them deep into the woods. There, they encounter Grop, Hagrid's giant half-brother, and soon after, they are surrounded by centaurs. Umbridge, true to her nature, insults and attacks the creatures. Centaurs are not the forgiving type. When Umbridge begs for help, Harry looks at her and says, "I'm sorry, Professor, but I must not tell lies." The centaurs drag a horrified Umbridge away into the dark forest. Free from Umbridge, Harry and Hermione find Ron, Neville, Ginny, and Luna Lovegood, who have escaped the Inquisitorial Squad. Together, they mount Thestrals, invisible winged horses that only those who have seen death can see, and fly to the Ministry of Magic. In the Department of Mysteries, after getting lost in endless corridors, they find the Hall of Prophecy, and there it is, an orb bearing the names of Harry Potter and Lord Voldemort. Harry touches the prophecy. The ambush is instantly revealed. Death Eaters emerge from the shadows. Lucius Malfoy, Bellatrix Lestrange, and a dozen more dark wizards. Sirius was never there. Hermione was right all along. Lucius confirms it bluntly. Harry only saw what Voldemort wanted him to see. The Death Eaters capture everyone except Harry and threaten to kill them if he doesn't hand over the prophecy. Harry is about to give in when the ceiling explodes. The Order of the Phoenix arrives. Sirius, Lupin, Tonks, Kingsley Shacklebolt, Moody, all alerted by Snape, who heard Harry's warning after all. The ensuing battle is brutal. Spells flying in all directions. The Department of Mysteries turning into a war zone. In the midst of the chaos, Sirius hits Lucius with a punch that causes the prophecy to fall and shatter on the floor. Lucius is taken down. For a moment, it looks like they are going to win. Then Bellatrix casts the killing curse. The spell hits Sirius dead on. Harry's godfather stumbles, and his body falls through the veil, a mysterious archway in the center of the room, and he doesn't come back. Sirius Black, the man who spent 12 years imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit, who broke out of Azkaban to protect his godson, who was Harry's last real connection to his parents, is gone. Harry is devastated. Then, he becomes furious. He chases Bellatrix into the Ministry atrium and knocks her down with the Cruciatus curse. Voldemort's voice whispers in his ear, feeding his hatred, urging Harry to kill. But Harry realizes what is happening. He recognizes the bait and turns to face Voldemort directly. The Dark Lord appears in person. He expresses contempt for Harry's weakness and tries to kill him. Dumbledore arrives via the Flu Network just in time. The duel between the two most powerful wizards in the world is short but devastating. Voldemort attacks with everything he has, waves of destructive energy, shards of glass turned into projectiles, but Dumbledore counters it all without suffering a scratch. At one point, he almost traps Voldemort in a sphere of water. Realizing he cannot defeat Dumbledore in direct combat, Voldemort changes tactics. He invades Harry's body, attempting to possess him. Harry feels the agonizing pain, the darkness taking over, but then he thinks of his friends. He thinks of Sirius. He thinks of everything he has that Voldemort will never understand, and with that strength, he expels the Dark Lord from his body, telling him that Voldemort is the weak one because he will never know love or true friendship. Voldemort abandons Harry and tries to disapparate before anyone sees him. He fails. Ministry officials arrive just in time to see the Dark Lord in the flesh. Cornelius Fudge, the man who spent an entire year denying the truth, is face to face with it. There's nowhere left to hide. Fudge is forced to publicly admit that Voldemort has returned and resigns in disgrace. Umbridge is fired from Hogwarts. Lucius Malfoy and the other captured Death Eaters are sent to Azkaban. Dumbledore is reinstated as headmaster. Back at Hogwarts, Dumbledore finally sits down with Harry and tells him the truth about the prophecy. The content is simple and devastating. In the end, only one can live. Harry and Voldemort are destined to face each other one last time, and only one will survive. It's the kind of revelation that could break someone. But Harry looks at the friends beside him, Ron, Hermione, Neville, Ginny, Luna, and understands something fundamental. Voldemort has power, he has fear, he has armies, but Harry has something the Dark Lord will never have, something worth fighting for. The wizarding world is different. Voldemort isn't a shadow, a whisper, a distant threat anymore. He's tightening his grip on both worlds, Muggle and magical, and the feeling is that no one is truly safe, not even within the walls of Hogwarts. Before the school year starts, Dumbledore shows up in person to pick up Harry, and it's not to take him straight to school, no. The two make a strategic pit stop at an old acquaintance's house, Professor Horace Slughorn. The guy was hiding, disguising the house as if it had been attacked, trying to drop off the map. But Dumbledore isn't the kind of person you fool with cheap theatrics, with that calm, calculated demeanor only he has. He convinces Slughorn to return to teaching potions at Hogwarts, and before leaving, he even fixes all the mess the old man made in the house, courtesy of the greatest living wizard. After that, Dumbledore takes Harry to the Burrow, the Weasleys' home. There, he reunites with Ron, Hermione, and Ginny, and in their very first conversation, Harry drops a bombshell. He thinks Draco Malfoy has become a Death Eater, following in his father's footsteps. Ron and Hermione don't buy it. They think it's a stretch, but Harry has that instinct that rarely misses when it comes to people up to no good. On the Hogwarts Express, Harry decides to investigate on his own. He uses the invisibility cloak to spy on Draco, hiding on the luggage rack in the compartment. The plan sounded good in theory. In practice, when the train arrives and everyone gets off, including Ron and Hermione, Draco realizes someone is there. He casts a Petrificus Totalis on Harry, pulls off the cloak, and, with that smile of someone born to be hated, stomps on his nose, breaks it, covers Harry back up with the cloak and tells him to enjoy the ride back to London. Draco Malfoy, ladies and gentlemen, always a charmer.
Enjoy your ride back to London.
Luckily, Luna Lovegood, with that supernatural radar only she possesses, finds Harry. She says his head was full of rackspurts, whatever those are, and lifts the spell. The two walk up to the school together. Harry, with a crooked nose and his pride in tatters. At the welcoming feast, Dumbledore makes two major announcements. First, Snape is now the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. That job everyone wanted and that Snape had coveted for years finally landed in his lap, since Slughorn took over potions. Second, all students were searched upon entry. Dark times call for dark measures. Voldemort is back in full force, and Hogwarts needs to act like the fortress it was meant to be. In potions class with Slughorn, Harry and Ron show up without their supplies. They have to borrow textbooks, and that's where things get interesting. The copy Harry gets is covered in scribbles, alternative instructions, extra spells, tips that don't exist in any other book, all handwritten by someone calling themselves the Half-Blood Prince. With these notes, Harry turns into the best student in the potions class, like a guy who finds a cheat code and suddenly becomes the most skilled player in the room. Meanwhile, Dumbledore starts a series of private meetings with Harry. They aren't your typical lessons. They're deep dives into memories. Through the pensieve, the two visit Tom Riddle's past, the orphanage where he grew up, the early signs of what he would become. Dumbledore wants Harry to completely understand the enemy, and he reveals something crucial. Slughorn is holding on to a specific memory, a recollection he altered out of shame, which contains essential information on how to defeat Voldemort. Retrieving this memory becomes Harry's secret mission. But not everything at Hogwarts is doom, gloom, and conspiracies. Actually, a good chunk of the castle is dealing with a very different problem: raging teenage hormones. Ron lands the keeper spot on the Gryffindor Quidditch team and, riding high on confidence, ends up getting into a romance with Lavender Brown. And when I say romance, I mean that kind of high school fling that makes everyone around them want to bury their heads in a pillow. Public makeout sessions, cringy nicknames, the whole 9 yards. Hermione watches all this, trying to hide that she's being torn apart inside. Jealousy, the worst kind. The kind that makes you pretend everything's fine while your eyes tell a completely different story. Harry, on the other hand, realizes his feelings for Ginny Weasley are getting impossible to ignore. The catch? Dean Thomas is dating her too. Harry opens up to Hermione about it, and the two end up consoling each other. Him over Ginny, her over Ron. A duo of frustrated romantics trying to survive the emotional chaos of being teenagers in a castle full of magic. Christmas arrives, and Harry spends the holidays with the Weasleys at the Burrow. It was supposed to be a peaceful moment, a break in the midst of so much tension, but the peace is short-lived. On Christmas Eve, Bellatrix Lestrange and Fenrir Greyback show up and attack. They set fire to the Burrow. The Weasley home, that crooked, cozy place that had always been a safe haven for Harry, goes up in flames as they watch. It's a brutal reminder. Voldemort can reach anyone, anywhere. Back at Hogwarts, things don't get any better. Ron almost dies from poisoned mead that was actually meant for Dumbledore. Someone inside the castle is trying to kill the headmaster and miss their mark. Harry acts fast and saves Ron with a Bezoar, but the scare is real. In the hospital wing, while recovering, Ron mumbles a name in his delirium. Hermione, not Lavender. Lavender, who was right there by his side, hears the whole thing, and the relationship that was already on life support is officially pulled the plug right then and there. Harry, increasingly convinced that Draco is behind everything, decides to confront him. The two cross paths in a bathroom, and things escalate quickly. Harry uses a spell he found in the Half-Blood Prince's book, Sectum Sempra. The effect is devastating. Draco drops to the floor bleeding as if slashed by invisible swords. The water in the bathroom mixes with blood. Harry freezes. He had no idea what that spell was capable of. Snape appears almost immediately, and with a skill no one expected, or maybe should have expected, he heals Draco's wounds. The look he shoots Harry speaks louder than words. Harry just used dark magic without even realizing it. The Sectum Sempra incident is a harsh wake-up call. That book that felt like a gift, that made Harry shine in class, now shows its dark side. Ginny and Harry decide to hide the book in the room of requirement, where no one will find it. And there, in that moment, amidst all that tension and guilt, the two finally kiss, their first kiss. It's not perfect in the classic cinematic sense. It's perfect because it's real. born out of months of pent-up feelings finally finding an outlet. But the main mission continues. Harry finally manages to extract the true memory from Slughorn, and what it reveals changes everything. A young Tom Riddle asked Slughorn about Horcruxes, objects in which a wizard can hide pieces of their own soul to become immortal. And Voldemort didn't just make one, he made seven fragments of his soul scattered across the world, each bound to a different object. As long as these objects exist, Voldemort cannot truly be destroyed. The good news? Two have already been eliminated. Tom Riddle's diary, which Harry destroyed in his second year, and Marvolo Gaunt's ring, which Dumbledore handled personally. The bad news? There are still more left. Dumbledore believes he's tracked down a third Horcrux, a locket that belonged to Salazar Slytherin, hidden in a seaside cave. The two set out together, and what they find in that cave is the stuff of nightmares. To get to the locket, Dumbledore has to drink a potion. Not just any potion, a substance that causes extreme pain, despair, and terrifying visions. And Harry has to force Dumbledore to drink it. Every gulp is pure agony. The most powerful wizard in the world reduced to begging him to stop. But Harry can't stop. Dumbledore made him promise. It's one of the hardest scenes to watch. Harry, with tears in his eyes, forcing his mentor to suffer because it's necessary. With the locket recovered, they still have to face off against a horde of Inferi, reanimated corpses emerging from the dark waters, trying to drag them under. Dumbledore, even weakened as he is, conjures fire and fends them off. The two manage to escape and apparate back to Hogwarts, straight to the astronomy tower. But when they arrive, something is very wrong. The castle is not at peace. Death Eaters have entered Hogwarts. Bellatrix, Greyback, and others breach the school through a vanishing cabinet that Draco spent the whole year repairing. All of Harry's paranoia about Draco? Justified. Every single second of suspicion? Confirmed. Dumbledore, barely able to stand, orders Harry to hide. Draco appears in the tower, and the truth hits like a lightning bolt. The mission Voldemort gave Draco was to kill Dumbledore. The 17-year-old boy, with a trembling wand, points it at the headmaster. Dumbledore, even in that state, tries to reason with him. He speaks calmly, almost gently. Draco disarms him of what Harry doesn't yet know is the Elder Wand, and in doing so, unintentionally wins the magical allegiance of the most powerful wand in existence. But kill? Draco can't do it. His hand shakes. His eyes well up with tears. He was raised for this, trained for this, but when push comes to shove, he doesn't have the stomach for murder. That's when Snape appears. Harry tries to react, but Snape signals him to stay quiet. He walks up the stairs, looks at Dumbledore, and Dumbledore looks back. There's something in that look, something that isn't fear. It almost looks like a plea. Avada Kedavra! The blast of green light hits Dumbledore squarely in the chest. His body is thrown from the tower, and as he falls, Bellatrix casts the dark mark into the sky, that skull with a snake slithering from its mouth, hovering over Hogwarts like a macabre trophy. Harry chases after Snape. He tries to attack, tries to use every spell he knows, including Sectum Sempra. Snape deflects them all with irritating ease, and right before disappearing into the night, he turns to Harry and says, he is the Half-Blood Prince, the author of that book Harry carried around all year like a Bible, the man who just killed Dumbledore. Harry heads back to the castle with Hagrid. What he finds is silent devastation. Teachers, students, everyone gathered around Dumbledore's body. There are no screams. There is no chaos. Just a heavy silence that hurts more than any noise ever could. Harry walks up to the body. He kneels, strokes Dumbledore's hair. He picks up the locket they risked everything to get. He places his hand over the heart of the man who was more than a headmaster to him. He was a guide, a protector, the person who made Harry believe there was a way forward. Ginny sits down beside him. Harry cries, without trying to hide it, without trying to be strong. He just cries. Hermione can't hold it back either. The tears come. McGonagall raises her wand to the sky. Luna does the same. Ron, Madame Pomfrey. One by one, every person there raises their wand, and their combined light makes the dark mark in the sky dissolve until it completely fades away. It's beautiful and heartbreaking all at once. It's the wizarding world refusing to let the darkness have the last word. Hermione opens the locket that Harry and Dumbledore nearly died retrieving, and inside, she finds a note. The Horcrux is a fake. Someone identified only as Rab had already stolen the real one, intending to destroy it. All that pain, all that potion, the inn fairy, the sacrifice, and the locket was worthless. Dumbledore died, and the mission remains incomplete. Harry tells Ron and Hermione everything. He shows them the fake locket, explains about the Horcruxes, about what's left to be done, and the three of them make a decision right then and there. They aren't going back to Hogwarts next year. The school can no longer protect them, and the war isn't going to wait for anyone to finish their final exams. Harry, Ron, and Hermione make a pact. They are going to hunt down the remaining Horcruxes. They'll find every piece of Voldemort's soul and destroy them one by one. It's the only way to finish him off for good. 3 teenagers against the most dangerous wizard to ever live, without Dumbledore to guide the way, without the safety of Hogwarts. Just them, the courage they carry, and a promise that they won't stop until they finish what was started. The wizarding world no longer hides the truth. Scrimgeour, the new Minister for Magic, stands before everyone to do what his predecessor refused to do for far too long. Publicly admit that Lord Voldemort has returned and that the threat is real. The speech ends with an assurance that the ministry remains strong. A beautiful phrase to say in times of peace. In times of war, it sounds more like a prayer. At the Dursleys' house, Harry watches the family that raised him without any love pack up everything and leave. He isn't going with them. This time, his path is different. Without Dumbledore, without the safety of Hogwarts, and without the protection of the Order of the Phoenix, Harry knows that the mission to find and destroy the Horcruxes is now entirely his, and he won't be going alone, but close to it. Hermione is also preparing, and what she does is utterly heartbreaking. To protect her parents, she casts the Obliviate charm, wiping any and all memories they have of her. The photographs around the house fade to empty, as if Hermione Granger had never existed. She basically erases herself from the lives of the people she loves most in the world, so they can stay alive. Ron, meanwhile, is seen standing outside the burrow, ready to embark on this journey, without knowing if he'll return. Meanwhile, in another corner of the country, Severus Snape arrives at Malfoy Manor. Voldemort is holding a meeting with his Death Eaters, and Snape brings the intel the Dark Lord wanted. The exact date and time Harry will be moved from Privet Drive. Voldemort receives the news with satisfaction, but raises a problem. His and Harry's wands share the same core, which means any duel between the two will end in a stalemate. To solve this, Voldemort demands Lucius Malfoy's wand. He doesn't ask. He demands. He even snaps off the serpent head decoration of the wand just to make it clear who's in charge. Lucius accepts in silence, humiliated in front of everyone. But the meeting doesn't end there. Voldemort makes a point of introducing a special guest to the Death Eaters, Charity Burbage, the former Muggle Studies professor at Hogwarts. He openly mocks her, ridiculing her belief that wizards and Muggles should coexist. Desperate, Charity begs Snape to save her, invoking the friendship they once shared. Snape doesn't move. He doesn't say a word. Voldemort kills her right then and there in front of everyone and offers her body for Nagini to feed on. It's a scene that brutally establishes what this war truly means. There is no mercy on this side.
Nagini, do not.
Days later, members of the Order of the Phoenix arrive at the Dursleys to move Harry. Mad-Eye Moody explains the plan. Since they can't apparate or use the Flu Network without alerting the Ministry, they will fly to the Burrow. And to confuse the Death Eaters, Ron, Hermione, Fred, George, and other volunteers take Polyjuice Potion to transform into identical copies of Harry. 7 Potters in the sky. Before taking off in Sirius Black's flying motorcycle with Hagrid, Harry releases Hedwig to meet them at the Burrow. The ambush comes fast and violent. The Death Eaters were waiting, and the sky turns into a battlefield. In the chaos, Hedwig is killed. Mad-Eye Moody, the veteran who survived so much, also falls. Voldemort himself appears to duel Harry, but something unexpected happens. Harry manages to overpower the Dark Lord, and the Malfoy wand Voldemort was using is destroyed in the process. At the Burrow, the news is a mix of relief and pain. Everyone made it, but the damage is real. George lost an ear, courtesy of a spell cast by Snape. Bill Weasley reports that Mundungus Fletcher apparated away the second he saw Voldemort. Cowardly, but consistent. That night, Harry wakes up disturbed by visions of Voldemort, a consequence of the mental connection they share. Overcome with guilt over seeing people get hurt because of him, he tries to leave on his own. It's Ron who stops him. He tells him that the fight is bigger than Harry, bigger than any of them, and that he might be the chosen one, but he doesn't have to be the lonely one. The next morning, Scrimgeour shows up with news from beyond the grave. Dumbledore left them because requests in his will. For Ron, the Deluminator, a device that captures and removes light sources. For Hermione, a copy of the Tales of Beetle the Bard, a children's book from the wizarding world. For Harry, the golden snitch he caught in his first ever Quidditch match. Dumbledore also intended to leave him the Sword of Gryffindor, but it belongs to Hogwarts and is currently missing. Every gift seems harmless on the surface, but this being Dumbledore, nothing is by chance. Bill Weasley and Fleur Delacour's wedding brings a brief moment of joy amidst the chaos. Harry runs into Luna Lovegood and her father, Xenophilius, who is wearing a strange symbol around his neck. Later, he talks to Elphias Doge, an old friend of Dumbledore's, and the Weasleys' Auntie Muriel, who makes a point of noting that Harry barely knew the real Dumbledore. She mentions Dumbledore's brother, Aberforth, as well as Bathilda Bagshot, a famous magical historian living in Godric's Hollow. Information that keeps pounding in his head. The party ends in the worst possible way. Kingsley Shacklebolt's Patronus bursts into the middle of the celebration with an urgent message. Scrimgeour is dead, the Ministry has fallen, and the Death Eaters are coming. Seconds later, they arrive. Chaos ensues. The tent catches fire. Harry looks for Ginny, but Lupin orders him to leave. Harry finds Ron and Hermione, and the three apparate away, landing on Shaftesbury Avenue, right in the middle of Muggle London. They barely have time to change clothes and duck into a cafe to figure out their next move before they are ambushed again. Two Death Eaters disguised as city workers. The trio reacts quickly, subduing Antonin Dolohov and Thorfinn Roll in a short, intense fight. Ron suggests killing them for what they did to Moody, but they opt to wipe their memories instead. It's a decision that speaks volumes about who they choose to be, even in war. The chosen hideout is number 12, Grimold Place, and it's there that they finally discover the identity of Rab, the mysterious author of the note found inside the fake locket. Rab is Regulus Arcturus Black, Sirius's younger brother. Kreacher, the Black family's house elf, tells them that the real Slytherin locket was in the house, but was stolen by Mundungus Fletcher. Harry orders Kreacher to find Mundungus and bring him back. Meanwhile, the outside world is crumbling. Pius Thickness, a puppet for Voldemort, has taken over as minister. He decrees that all wizards must have their blood status evaluated. Harry has become undesirable number 1, his face plastered everywhere. Through their mental link, Harry sees Voldemort hunting down Grigorovich, a foreign wand maker. Voldemort interrogates him and then kills him, searching for something specific. Kreacher and Dobby return dragging Mundungus, who confesses that he gave the locket to none other than Dolores Umbridge. That Umbridge. The plan is bold. The three take Polyjuice Potion to disguise themselves as Ministry employees and infiltrate the heart of the wizarding government. Once inside, they are forced to separate. Ron ends up dealing with Reginald Cattermole's wife and a furious Yaxley. Harry searches Umbridge's office for the locket, only to find surveillance files on his friends and family. Hermione follows Umbridge down to a courtroom where Muggleborns are facing completely unjust trials, with Dementors being used to intimidate the accused. Harry and Ron head down to the courtroom, and what they find is sickening. Umbridge, wearing the locket around her neck as if it were a fashion accessory, interrogates Mary Cattermole while Dementors suck all the hope out of the room. Harry can't take it. He stupefies Umbridge, grabs the locket, and the three of them narrowly escape the Ministry after being recognized. They land in the Forest of Dean, but Ron was splinched during the apparition. As Hermione tends to his wounds, she warns them that they can no longer return to Grimold Place because Yaxley discovered the location. After healing Ron, Hermione casts protective enchantments around their tent, and they try to destroy the locket. It doesn't work. Nothing works. They decide to take turns wearing the locket while they search the English countryside for more Horcruxes. The problem is that the Horcrux is poisonous in a way that goes beyond the physical. Whoever wears the locket becomes angrier, more paranoid, more bitter. Ron is the most affected. He starts noticing Harry and Hermione spending a lot of time together, and that jealousy eats away at him from the inside. The days drag on with no progress, no direction, no hope. One night, Hermione makes a crucial discovery. She explains to Harry that golden snitches have flesh memories, meaning they only open for the person who caught them. On another night, she puts the pieces together regarding the sword of Gryffindor. Being goblin-made, the sword doesn't rust or scratch, but rather takes in only that which makes it stronger. Since Harry killed the Slytherin basilisk with it in his second year, the sword is impregnated with basilisk venom, one of the few substances capable of destroying a Horcrux. This revelation is the breaking point. Ron, who was wearing wearing the locket at the time, explodes. The Horcrux has amplified weeks of fear, frustration, and insecurity. He verbally attacks Harry, questions everything, and when Hermione is forced to choose between leaving with Ron or staying with Harry, she stays. Ron leaves. He disappears into the night. Hermione is devastated. Harry tries to cheer her up the only way he knows how. He pulls her into a dance inside the tent. It's a simple, almost silly moment, but profoundly human. The next day, Harry discovers that when he presses his lips to the snitch, an inscription appears. "I open at the close." Neither of them understands what it means, just as they don't understand the strange symbol Hermione found in the Beetle the Bard book. Harry suggests they visit Godric's Hollow. Hermione agrees, betting that the Sword of Gryffindor might be hidden in Bathilda Bagshot's house. When they arrive, it's Christmas Eve. They walk through the graveyard, and Hermione finds the same mysterious symbol on a tombstone, bearing the name Ignotus Peverell. Further ahead, Harry stops in front of his parents' grave. Hermione conjures a wreath of flowers. The moment needs no words. A figure that appears to be Bathilda Bagshot watches them and invites them inside. Hermione finds a book by Rita Skeeter, The Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore. Harry tries to talk to Bathilda, but the answers come in Parseltongue. They realize it's a trap too late. It isn't Bathilda, it's Nagini, disguised inside the old witch's body. The snake attacks Harry with full force. Hermione saves the day, and the two escape back to the Forest of Dean, but Harry's wand is destroyed. Harry wakes up, and Hermione reveals that the man in the photo at Bathilda's house was Gellert Grindelwald, a dark wizard defeated in 1945 who, surprisingly, had been friends with Dumbledore in his youth. Exhausted and hopeless, Hermione suggests they abandon everything and stay hidden until they grow old. It's a moment of pure vulnerability from someone who has already given everything and doesn't know if she has anything left to give. That night, while Harry keeps watch, a silver doe Patronus appears among the trees. He follows the doe to a small frozen pond, where she disappears. At the bottom of the water, gleaming beneath the ice, is the Sword of Gryffindor. Harry strips down and dives in without taking off the locket, a near-fatal mistake. The Horcrux senses the sword's presence and tries to strangle Harry, pulling him under. When all seems lost, a hand yanks him out of the water. It's Ron. He's back, and he brings the sword with him. Harry opens the locket. A dark force erupts from within, isolating Harry and turning on Ron. The Horcrux strikes where it hurts the most. It shows illusions of Ron's greatest fears, including Harry and Hermione showing contempt for him before kissing passionately. It's cruel, calculated, designed to break him. But Ron, despite everything, despite the pain and the doubt, raises the sword and shatters the locket. Back at the tent, Hermione isn't exactly receptive to Ron's return. Ron explains that Dumbledore's Deluminator doesn't just remove light, but it also guided him back to them at the exact moment Harry was being strangled. Dumbledore knew. He always knew. Hermione suggests they visit Xenophilius Lovegood to decipher the mysterious symbol, which has appeared again in Skeeter's book. At the Lovegood's house, Xenophilius reveals that the symbol represents the Deathly Hallows. He asks them to read The Tale of the Three Brothers, and the story of the three Peverell brothers unfolds before them. The Hallows are three legendary objects: the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand in existence, the Resurrection Stone, capable of bringing back the dead, and the Cloak of Invisibility, which hides the user from any eyes. Whoever possesses all three becomes the Master of Death, but Xenophilius has an ulterior motive. The Death Eaters have captured Luna, and he triggers the taboo on Voldemort's name to trade the trio for his daughter. They escape, but fall right into the hands of Snatchers waiting in the woods. Hermione casts a jinx on Harry to disfigure his face, and in that instant, Harry has a vision. Voldemort in Nurmengard, interrogating Grindelwald. The old wizard reveals that the Elder Wand lies with Dumbledore. Voldemort sets off immediately. The three are taken to Malfoy Manor. Draco is called upon to identify Harry, but he hesitates. He neither confirms nor denies it. Bellatrix notices the Sword of Gryffindor and panics, believing it should be in her vault at Gringotts. She sends Harry and Ron down to the cellar, where they find Luna, Ollivander, and the Goblin Griphook, all held prisoner. Upstairs, Bellatrix tortures Hermione to extract information on how they got the sword. Harry, holding the two-way mirror Sirius gave him, sees another man's face looking back at him. He begs for help, and Dobby apparates straight into the cellar. At Harry's request, Dobby first disapparates with Luna and Ollivander to Shell Cottage, then returns to free Harry and Ron. A A sequence of duels unfolds against Narcissa, Draco, and others. Harry disarms Draco, Ron rescues Hermione, and Dobby provides the distraction that allows their escape. But the very moment they apparate, Bellatrix throws a dagger. It strikes Dobby. They arrive at Shell Cottage, Bill and Fleur's home, and Harry holds the elf in his arms. Dobby looks at Harry and dies right there, a free elf, beside the friend who freed him. The trio prepares a proper burial, without magic, with their own bare hands. And while they mourn a friend somewhere far away, Voldemort desecrates Dumbledore's tomb. His hands find the Elder Wand. He raises it to the sky, and lightning splits the night. The race for survival has just gained a new level of urgency, and the three young friends who decided to face the most dangerous wizard in history are closer to the end than they realize. Which end, though, remains to be seen. Voldemort breaks open Dumbledore's tomb with his bare hands and snatches the Elder Wand from the old headmaster's corpse. He raises it to the sky and fires a colossal lightning bolt, as if to warn the entire world that no one can stop him now. Meanwhile, Hogwarts has become something else. It's no longer a school. It's a concentration camp surrounded by Dementors, with students marching in silence across the courtyard, while Snape, the new headmaster, watches everything from above with the emptiest expression imaginable. At Shell Cottage, Harry sits before Dobby's grave, staring into the two-way mirror. He needs answers, and goes to get them from Griphook, the goblin. Harry wants to know why Bellatrix was so desperate, believing the sword of Gryffindor was in her vault at Gringotts. Griphook reveals there is a fake sword in there, something he noticed, but Bellatrix doesn't know. And that detail changes everything, because if Bellatrix reacted that way over a fake sword, what else is she hiding in that vault? Harry is certain it's a Horcrux. The three of them strike a deal with Griphook. The goblin will take them to the vault in exchange for the real sword. It's a steep price. Without the sword, they lose the only tool they know of that destroys Horcruxes. But there is no alternative. Harry also consults Ollivander about the stolen wands. Bellatrix's is unyielding, dangerous. Draco's, however, has changed its allegiance. Harry won it when he disarmed Draco, and now it answers to him. Regarding the Deathly Hallows, Ollivander says he doesn't believe they exist, but when Harry reveals that Voldemort already possesses the Elder Wand, the old wand maker doesn't hide his fear. He tells him point blank that Harry doesn't stand a chance. Even so, off they go. Hermione transforms into Bellatrix using Polyjuice Potion. Ron gains a thick beard and a foreign accent, and Harry goes with Griphook under the invisibility cloak. The infiltration of Gringotts starts off well enough, but Hermione's impersonation doesn't convince the goblins. Harry and Ron are forced to use the Imperius Curse on Bogrod, one of the employees, to maintain their cover. When they pass through the Thief's Downfall, a waterfall that washes away any enchantment, their disguises melt away completely, but they are already inside. Bellatrix's vault is a trap in itself. Everything they touch multiplies frantically, the Gemino Curse turning each object into dozens of identical copies, crushing the three of them under mountains of fake gold. But Harry finds it, Helga Hufflepuff's cup, the Horcrux, and this is where Griphook shows his true colors. He snatches the sword from their hands and drops a cold line. He never promised to help them get out, only to get in. The goblin flees, calling for security, and the trio is cornered in a vault that is closing in on them. Their way out? A dragon, chained in the depths of Gringotts as a security measure. Hermione jumps them onto the creature's back. She blasts the chains off, and the dragon does what any animal imprisoned for decades would do, destroys everything in its path. It bursts through the roof of Gringotts and flies off with the three clinging to its back, while goblins are crushed in the rubble, including Bogrod, who was still under the effects of the Imperius Curse.
That's unfortunate.
When they finally drop from the dragon into a lake, Harry is pulled into a vision. Voldemort is furious. He slaughters Griphook and dozens of Gringotts employees at Malfoy Manor, and he makes a decision that changes everything. He keeps Nagini by his side and orders his followers to invade Hogwarts. He needs to make sure the Horcrux hidden there is still safe. Harry feels this through the connection between them. He feels Voldemort thinking about Hogwarts, thinking about the Horcrux, and he realizes something else. With every Horcrux destroyed, Voldemort grows weaker, more afraid. They need to get there first. The trio apparates into Hogsmeade and immediately trips the alarm set up by the Death Eaters. They are surrounded in seconds, but someone pulls them into a house. Aberforth Dumbledore, Albus's brother. He's the one who had been watching Harry through the two-way mirror all this time, and he's the one who sent Dobby to rescue them at Malfoy Manor. Aberforth gives them food and some very blunt advice. Give up. Hide. Save your own skins. He insists that Albus left them a suicide mission. Harry listens to it all, but he doesn't budge. He trusts Dumbledore's judgment, and he is going to finish what he started. Then Aberforth reveals a secret passage behind the portrait of his sister, Ariana. And who appears on the other side? Neville Longbottom, battered, covered in bruises, but standing tall. He and most of the students have spent the entire year hiding in the Room of Requirement, taking beatings from the Death Eaters who now control the school. When Harry arrives, he is met with applause, but he doesn't know what he's looking for. He knows it's something connected to Ravenclaw. Luna suggests Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem, but Cho Chang reminds them that no one alive has ever seen it. Before they can make a move, Ginny enters and warns them. Snape knows Harry is there. He wants everyone in the Great Hall. In the Great Hall, Snape demands that anyone with information about Harry step forward. Harry emerges from the crowd and faces him head-on. He tells Snape to tell them the truth, how he betrayed and murdered Dumbledore. Snape draws his wand, but McGonagall steps in front of Harry without hesitation. What follows is a fast and devastating duel. McGonagall attacks relentlessly, and Snape, subtly, deflects her spells into the Carrow siblings, knocking out his own allies before apparating away. McGonagall calls him a coward. Then Voldemort's voice echoes through every wall of the castle. Hand over Harry Potter and everyone will live. Pansy Parkinson screams for someone to grab him, but Ginny, Dumbledore's army, and the Order of the Phoenix surround Harry. No one is handing anyone over. McGonagall orders Filch to take Parkinson and the Slytherin students to the dungeons, and the entire castle cheers. Then, she brings the statues of Hogwarts knights to life to defend the school, while Flitwick, Slughorn, and Molly Weasley conjure a gigantic shield around the castle. Harry needs to find the diadem. Luna takes him to the ghost of Helena Ravenclaw, who is reluctant to help. She says Voldemort has already defiled the item with dark magic, but Harry convinces her that he wants to destroy it, not use it. Helena finally reveals Voldemort hid the diadem in the room where everything is hidden, the Room of Requirement. Meanwhile, Ron and Hermione go down into the Chamber of Secrets, the very same chamber where Harry fought the basilisk years ago. They yank a fang from the serpent's skeleton, and Hermione uses it to destroy Hufflepuff's cup. The destruction triggers a massive tidal wave that nearly kills them. Voldemort and Harry feel the impact at the same time. And then, in the middle of the Chamber of Secrets, soaked and panting, Ron and Hermione finally kiss. Years of tension resolved in the most unlikely place possible. Outside, the Death Eaters try to break through the shield. 3 Snatchers run straight into the barrier and disintegrate on contact. Voldemort then focuses all his power into a single spell. The shield shatters. And as it does, the Elder Wand cracks slightly in his hand. It doesn't break, but the sign is there. The Battle of Hogwarts truly begins. Death Eaters, Dementors, Giants, and Acromantulas charge forward. Neville destroys the wooden bridge with Snatchers still on it, including Scabier, and almost falls with them, saving himself at the very last second by grabbing the edge. Harry finds Ginny in the midst of the chaos. He kisses her and tries to say he loves her, but she holds his face and whispers that she already knows, and lets him go. In the Room of Requirement, Harry locates the diadem through his connection with Voldemort, but Draco, Goyle, and Zabini are waiting. Draco asks for his wand back. Harry notices his reluctance, asks why he hesitated to identify him at Malfoy Manor. Before Draco can answer, Ron and Hermione intervene. Goyle fires killing curses that narrowly miss Hermione, and then conjures Fiendfire, an uncontrollable magical fire that devours everything. The flames take the shapes of dragons and serpents, consuming the entire room. Goyle loses control, tosses his wand aside, and tries to climb a pile of furniture, but slips and falls into the flames. He dies instantly. The trio finds brooms and flies above the inferno. Harry, seeing Draco and Zabini about to fall into the fire, turns back to save them. Ron agrees to help, but warns he'll kill Harry if they die trying. They rescue the two and escape. Harry destroys the diadem with a basilisk fang Hermione kept, and Ron kicks the pieces back into the burning room just before the doors seal shut. Voldemort feels the destruction and falters. When Pius Thickness asks what happened, Voldemort kills him on the spot. Harry has another vision. Voldemort is in the boathouse with Nagini. He has summoned Snape. The trio runs through the devastated castle. Along the way, they find Fenrir Greyback feeding on Lavender Brown's body. Hermione blasts him out the window. In the boathouse, they hide and watch something no one expected. Voldemort explains to Snape that since he was the one who killed Dumbledore, the Elder Wand serves Snape, not him. And the only way to resolve this is by killing Snape. Voldemort slashes Snape's throat with Sectum Sempra and orders Nagini to finish the job. The snake strikes multiple times while the trio watches in horror. Once Voldemort leaves, Harry approaches the man he has hated his entire life. Snape is bleeding out, but still conscious. A tear rolls down his cheek. It's not water, it's memories. Snape begs Harry to take them. Hermione hands him a flask, and Harry collects every drop. Snape's final words are for Harry to look at him. He tells Harry he has his mother's eyes, and he dies. The Great Hall is a graveyard. Fred Weasley is dead. Lupin and Tonks as well. Ron weeps over his brother's body alongside Molly. Harry can't bear to stay there. He goes up to the headmaster's office and pours Snape's memories into the pensieve. What he sees changes everything. Snape and Lily Evans were childhood friends. They grew up together, played with magic together. Snape fell in love with her. But at Hogwarts, Lily was sorted into Gryffindor and grew close to James Potter, the boy who relentlessly bullied Snape. Lily married James. Snape never forgot her. When Voldemort decided to kill the Potters because of the prophecy, Snape realized what he had done. He went to Dumbledore and begged him to protect Lily. Dumbledore agreed on one condition: Snape would abandon the Death Eaters. Snape agreed instantly, but Wormtail's betrayal handed the Potters over. Snape arrived in Godric's Hollow to find Lily dead. He held her in his arms while baby Harry cried in his crib with his newly formed scar. Dumbledore convinced him to protect Harry in case Voldemort returned, so that Lily's death wouldn't have been in vain. Snape agreed on one condition: that no one would ever know of his feelings for her. And the final revelation: when the killing curse rebounded off baby Harry, a fragment of Voldemort's soul broke off and latched onto Harry. Harry is a Horcrux, one that Voldemort never intended to make, and Harry must die so that Voldemort can be destroyed. Harry pulls out of the pensieve in shock. He tells Ron and Hermione that he is going to the Forbidden Forest. Hermione tearfully begs to go with him, but Harry refuses. They need to kill Nagini, the last Horcrux. Harry says his goodbyes and walks away alone. On the way, he pulls the golden snitch from his pocket. He whispers that he is ready to die, and the inscription reappears. I open at the close. The snitch opens. Inside is the Resurrection Stone. Harry uses it to call back his parents, Sirius and Lupin. They walk beside him, invisible to others. Sirius tells him that dying is quicker than falling asleep. Harry drops the stone on the forest floor, so it will be lost forever. He finds Voldemort in the center of the clearing. Hagrid, taken captive, yells for him to run. Harry closes his eyes. Voldemort raises the Elder Wand. The green light strikes him. Harry wakes up in an ethereal white version of King's Cross Station. No glasses, no wounds. Under a bench, a repulsive, small, bloodied creature whimpers in agony. It's the fragment of Voldemort that lived inside him. Dumbledore appears and explains, Harry is not dead. The killing curse only destroyed the Horcrux within him. Harry has a choice: go back and finish the fight, or move on. Dumbledore bids him farewell. Walking off into the light, Harry goes back. He plays dead. Narcissa Malfoy is sent to check the body. She feels Harry's pulse and asks in a whisper if Draco is alive. Harry confirms with an almost imperceptible nod. Narcissa turns to the Death Eaters and lies. Harry Potter is dead. Voldemort marches on Hogwarts with a weeping Hagrid carrying Harry's body in his arms. He declares the boy's death to the entire castle. Ginny screams in despair and tries to run to him, but is held back by Arthur. Voldemort demands that they all surrender or die. Draco crosses the courtyard and goes to his parents. Voldemort gives him an awkward hug that only incites revulsion. Then Neville steps forward. Voldemort and the Death Eaters laugh, but Neville doesn't back down. He says they lost Harry, Fred, Lupin, Tonks, and so many others, but that they all died fighting for freedom, that they carry the ones they love in their hearts, and that they will fight to the bitter end. And as he speaks, he pulls the sword of Gryffindor from the sorting hat. At that exact moment, Harry vaults from Hagrid's arms, alive. What follows is the collapse of Voldemort's empire. Dozens of shaken Death Eaters simply disapparate. The entire Malfoy family flees on foot. Bellatrix screams for Lucius to fight, but he chooses his family. Inside the castle, the final battle rages. Bellatrix nearly kills Ginny, and Molly Weasley steps into the fray like a woman who has nothing left to lose. Bellatrix laughs, thinking she's winning, until Molly strikes her square in the chest with a spell so powerful that her body freezes, cracks, and shatters into pieces. On the rooftops, Harry reveals the truth about the Elder Wand to Voldemort. Snape never won it because Dumbledore's death was planned between them. The one who disarmed Dumbledore that night was Draco, and the one who took Draco's wand was Harry. The Elder Wand has always been his. Neville, having recovered in the Great Hall, finds Nagini cornering Ron and Hermione. With a single upward swing of the sword, he decapitates the snake. Nagini dissolves into black smoke. Voldemort falls to his knees. Harry and Voldemort cast their final spells at the same time. Avada Kedavra against Expelliarmus. The jets of light collide, but this time, Harry pushes the curse back. The green light engulfs Voldemort from the inside. The Elder Wand flies into the air and lands in the hands of its true master. Voldemort collapses. His body cracks and crumbles into ashes that are carried away by the wind. No epic screams, no explosions, just silence. Harry explains to Ron and Hermione why the wand never obeyed Voldemort. Then, he does what no one expected. He snaps the Elder Wand in half and tosses the pieces off the bridge, despite the incredulous looks from his friends. The three of them hold hands and look ahead, not knowing what comes next. 19 years later, Platform 9 3/4 is packed once again. Harry and Ginny are dropping off their children, James Sirius, Albus Severus, and Lily Luna. Ron and Hermione are there too, married with Hugo and Rose. Even Draco makes an appearance, alongside a son named Scorpius, who is the spitting image of him. Albus asks his father what will happen if he's sorted into Slytherin. Harry crouches down, looks his son in the eye, and tells him that Slytherin would be gaining an extraordinary wizard, and that the sorting hat takes a person's choice into account. Then he tells him that his name, Albus Severus, comes from 2 headmasters of Hogwarts, and that one of them was a Slytherin, the bravest man Harry has ever known. The Hogwarts Express departs. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Ginny watch their children leave to live their own stories. The camera pushes in on the trio one last time, and the screen fades to black.